That is more than I can say for Nitro. There was a lot of really stupid stuff on this.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not as bad as it's been. And also,
that's the most backhanded compliment I've heard in a while.
Here's another backhanded comment. You know this Warrior thing that we're going to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I do.
Do you remember, I can't remember all the details, but they did that stupid storyline with, like, Randy Orton and Cowboy Bob, and, like, Cowboy Bob bled magically or something. Do you remember this?
Yes.
It was
being the Taker.
It was so stupid.
Yeah.
That's one of, like, 100 stupid things we've seen in the last 19 years. So when I watched this Warrior thing again, I was like, yeah, it was dumb, but fuck. It was so dumb then.
Yeah.
Now looking at it, it's only mildly dumb. Look at all the shit we see with Bray Wyatt. We saw a fucking match where worms appeared on the mat in the main event or one of the main events of WrestleMania.
Fact.
And now I look back at this and I'm like, fuck, you saw a guy in a mirror. What's so weird about that?
Well, we'll get to it.
God, how times have changed.
It was weird, though.
It was stupid. But man, little did everyone know.
No.
When they buried that segment. Just wait.
WCW Monday Nitro number 160, also October 5th, 1998. The show took forever to get going. First we got an ad for Halloween Havoc. I'm not making that up.
With Chucky.
Chucky's laughter's in there. They're talking about who's this laughing person. The production truck doesn't know who it is. Then the Nitro Girls danced. Then the pyro goes off. Then Tony talks about the laugh some more. Then recap like month-old Bret Hart stuff. Clips from August. First match is Saturn versus Liz Martin Jr. The bell rings to open the match. The show is 8 minutes and 55 seconds old. It took them forever to get into this match. And then, worse, the match started. Liz Martin was awful on this night. Is he always this bad?
Dude, okay, so Liz Martin Jr. fucking sucked, okay? And every time he's in the ring, he fucking sucks. I watched him in this match, and he fucking sucked so bad that I'm not sure this was the actual Liz Martin Jr. That's how bad he was.
Huh. This was the emergency backup second string Liz Martin Jr.?
Like, this was a guy who... This was like... What was that fucker's name for the NWA show that we just watched? The Terrible Jobber.
Oh, Dale LaPerouse?
I'm pretty sure this was Dale LaPerouse in a Liz Mark outfit. Like, he was... As bad as Liz Martin Jr. is, he was 10 times worse here, if that's even possible. He was so bad.
His rope running was terrible.
Oh.
Now, I've seen a lot of guys who run the ropes badly and it takes them 5 steps to get across the ring. It took Liz Mark 5 steps to get across the logo. Saturn eventually said, fuck this shit. Hit a Falcon Arrow and a DVD for the win. Not a minute too soon.
Dude.
Had a Paige Goldberg promo. More Nitro Girls. The show is 100% useless so far.
It gets more useless.
Speaking of the cat...
Well, we got to say one thing about all of this Halloween Havoc stuff that you've been talking about that they do throughout this show. Their buy rates weren't doing so well. And they paid the Warrior $1 million to get through this storyline and do a job for Hulk Hogan at this pay-per-view. So they were pushing this fucking pay-per-view so hard. They were desperate to get their money out of this pay-per-view. So yes, we saw 25 ads on this show.
So Kat does his promo, warning Kaz, I am a 3-time world karate champion, blah, blah, blah. Somewhere in here he called him Jackie Chan, which ordinarily...
Well, they had Jackie Chan on the show a couple of weeks ago.
They did. He said hi to Larry.
They're trying to get Jackie Chan.
That too. Ordinarily, I would say this would be a terribly racist insult, but honestly, anyone being called Jackie Chan is a compliment. So...
I love that Shat's out there and he's doing all this bullshit about how he's a 3-time karate champion, being all annoying. Then they go to Mike Tenay and he goes... Do you know that all of Shat's claims are real? He played in the NFL. He was a 3-time world karate champion. Even got drafted to a pro soccer team. Like,
why would you do that?
Okay, cool.
Kat in this match used a rib claw.
He did.
He had the man down and applied an iron claw to the ribs.
Welcome to 85.
It was a rib, in fact. And then Kaz tried something off the top, and Kat hit him with a kick, and Kaz fell in Kat's leg. I thought it was going to break.
That was supposed to be the finish. But it was so shitty.
It almost was the end of Kat's career.
Shat was like, that looked like shit.
So he hit a different kick.
I'm going to do another boring kick. Then I'll pin him.
He cut a promo about how great he was, and then Sonny Ono, who had come out with Kaz, was impressed and tried to recruit the cat.
Yeah. Sonny Ono finally figured out this guy was a karate champ. Just like me. I'm going to go with him now.
Not only that, this guy wins every week.
Well, there's that, too.
My guys haven't won in months. Nitro party clips. I've never seen so many shirtless children. Very disturbing. Yet another Paige Goldberg promo. Jerry Flynn versus Juventud Guerrera.
Oh, boy.
What are you talking about?
I had forgotten what a fun wrestler Jerry Flynn was.
Dude, I expected this to be a disaster, and it was actually really good.
Here's my biggest complaint. The thing you complain about all the time. The finish of this match was a Michinoku driver on Jerry Flynn, who is 18 inches taller than Juventud.
He's a big dude.
He's very powerful.
Oh, get out of here.
Craig's a leverage throw.
Yeah.
You get center of balance.
How so?
You get center of gravity
Hold
under
on
the
a
other
second.
guy.
You know what a Michinoku driver is?
I
You
used
lift
to
the
use
guy
it.
up, and then you just fall
What's
down.
your finish? Do you know what it is?
Listen, to do a body slam, you got to lift the guy up, and then you got to turn him over. Michinoku driver, you just lift him up and you just fall down. That's the move.
Brian.
I believe Hoovy could hit that.
Oh, please.
I like when Larry said, I think it was, Disco Inferno came out. I'm sorry. Disco said, Juventud have been wrestling on a trampoline in Tijuana. Clearly, he's never actually seen Lucha Libre rings, which are a slab of granite with a thin tarp on top.
Yeah, this was not a trampoline.
No.
He also called him Hooven Stooge.
Yes. Yes, he did. So anyway, yeah, Jerry Flynn had that very fun match with Saturn a week or two ago. Had a very fun match with Juventud here, and they got dropped on his head and lost. Thumbs up.
I liked it.
I was with it till the finish, dude.
Mike Tenay is outside interviewing children about who's going to win Goldberg or Dallas Page.
Never goes
my
well.
God.
No.
The little children were Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton and a bunch of stupid WWE announcers. Did you hear these kids, what they were saying? It was like scripted WWE bullshit.
It was very cliched.
Like, DDP has overcome all of the odds. He's surely going to hit the diamond cutter on the big Bill Goldberg.
Line.
It's like, what?
Line.
So finally, it's all kids.
If someone would have said Monster Among Men, that would have totally made this segment.
It's all kids, and then Tenay looks over and spots a woman in a DDP shirt. And she asks him, and she also says something about how Paige is going to do it. He's going to get the diamond cutter. Is going to get the win. And Tenay says, okay. And he starts to wrap it up and talk about whatever's next. And then the woman holds up her sign. It didn't all make it on camera, but enough of it did. You could read what it said, which was, "Hey Hogan, shake your," and then she wrote _ICK. "Shake your ick and take your pick." This made it on Nitro.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it means.
No idea what that means.
Well,
Yes, Craig?
he's, when you find a girl, you got to pick her,
I see.
and then you can shake your ick at her.
So she had the wrong order.
I think so.
Okay.
So she was hitting on Hulk.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know what she's worried about because remember Hogan under oath said he did not have a 10-inch penis.
What the hell does that have to do with her sign?
Well, I'm just saying. Maybe
She didn't specify the sign. She just said shake it
She
and then
might-
take
I say
it.
shake your 10-inch
might
dick.
be very disappointed in Mr. Bullet.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe she'd be overjoyed.
Yet another Hogan Warrior video package. You know, when it's WrestleMania week and we have to watch NXT, and NXT is all in wherever Mania is, not doing a show? That's what this Nitro felt like.
And this show isn't for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Dude.
Wrath versus Viano 5. Wrath squashed him and won with a meltdown.
Meltdown was awesome.
Fans are totally getting into this.
You just smashed this dude.
Somebody brought up that Chronic is coming pretty soon.
I think it's years away.
I think it's like a year away.
It's not soon. It's inevitable. They're coming.
Chronic.
It's not soon, but it's too soon. I can tell you that much.
Right.
We should watch their match against Taker and Kane.
Dude, we probably watching it wouldn't be that bad.
No.
I don't know.
I have seen it since it happened.
I don't know.
This is a match so bad that the Undertaker breaks character and throws a tantrum in the middle.
Vinny, you gave that War Games a quarter fucking star.
I guess that's that. Let's see how it goes. Hey, guess what happened next? There was a Hogan Warrior video package.
There sure was, yeah.
I did something wrong somewhere in my life, and this show was my punishment.
Let's talk about the goddamn stupidest segment I've seen in my life.
Oh, we'll get to the Wolfpack. Let's not overlook a second segment interviewing fans what will happen. One guy not only picked a winner for Paige Goldberg, he booked a finish. He said Goldberg's going to go for the jackhammer. Paige will counter it with a diamond cutter and win. And I bet that's what happens in the match.
I bet you it's still real to him.
Might be. Okay, we can talk about the Wolfpack now.
David Wills called into Observer Live today.
Oh, how's he doing?
Yeah, the it's still real to me guy.
Mm-hmm.
So this fucking Humvee shows up. The Wolfpack gets out. Sting is angry because he was a fucking idiot last week again. They're looking for somebody. So they
Shivani suggested perhaps they're trying to find the ring.
They finally end up
Spinal Tap
in the NWO Black and White Geek locker room, and a brawl breaks out.
Kinda.
So they start fighting, and I'm figuring, well, you know, we see this all the time. Security's going to show up, go to commercial.
Oh, no.
A fucking million policemen show up. We're not even talking Doug Dillinger and security, but also a bunch of policemen. They proceed to have the longest, funniest, stupidest brawl ever. The cops are bumping around. The cops are
They had no idea what to do.
Asking these guys to stop.
Yes.
They're like, hey guys, can we stop? And this brawl just goes on and on and on. Cops are being shoved to the side. Cops are falling on their ass. Wolfpack is still beating on Vincent or whatever. And I'm like, they have fucking nightsticks and guns.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on right here? They go to a commercial. I'm like, that was the stupidest thing I ever saw in my life. They come back from commercial. It's still going.
Yes.
It's been going now for 5 minutes. Sting finally finds Bret Hart, and he begins to beat his ass. They brawl their way outside. The cops are following them, asking them, guys, can we please knock it off now? Can we please stop doing this brawling and this fighting and this assault? Sting gets in a forklift. He proceeds to lift the NWO limo off of the earth. He begins to lift it into the air. Sting, not a trained forklift operator.
They're not that difficult.
Steve Borden. As he's lifting this goddamn thing, Nash is running around on the other side of the car.
Bad place to be.
Bobby Heenan's begging him, be careful. What are you doing over there? Scott Hall, by the way, in the news, had been arrested. He was outside a strip club.
That's right.
He keyed some guy's limo.
I see.
So I guess they thought it'd be funny to spend God knows how much money to destroy this fucking limo.
$2,000 in paint damage.
Yeah, think about that. There was $2,000 in paint damage to key the guy's car. Mm-hmm. So imagine how much money they spent to completely destroy this limo.
They claimed $100,000.
They tipped the limo over, and then once the limo is upside down, have you ever tried to drive a car that's upside down?
Can't say I have.
Only once.
It's hard, all right? Because it's fucking upside down.
Sure.
Well, to make sure they couldn't drive off, Sting made sure to slash the tires.
Right. Yes. Of all the things that have been done, it's not just upside down, like sitting on top. The roof is smashed in. All the windows are smashed. This car's done. Kevin Nash is now standing on the underbelly, whacking random mechanical things with a hammer.
And then Sting goes up to a female officer. Do you happen to have a knife?
Well, first he said that. I guess he thought someone would have a knife here. So he starts to call Kevin Nash. Kev! And Kevin doesn't answer. So Sting tries his other name. Sexy! He called him sexy. And he says, knife! Knife! Nash is like, I didn't bring a fucking knife. So Sting eventually...
Well, luckily these damn cops had brought knives.
Somewhere...
And they were nice enough to give their knife to this fucking painted up vandal. He slices the tires.
For why?
Cops are...
The easiest thing to replace. You can go buy new tires right now.
Cops are walking around.
Let's swap and install them for free.
Completely impotent.
Not free.
This was so
Installation,
stupid.
isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This was so stupid.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Did you mention... Let's go back to that pre-commercial horrible brawl in the locker room. That went forever and ever. So these were real cops who I'm sure have broken up fights before via mace and billy clubs and cuffs. But here they weren't supposed to do that, so they had no idea what to do, so they're just standing there. And Scott Steiner, who is insane, is trying to get them to do something. So just start shoving men and women left and right, hoping one of them will fire back and none of them do.
Yes, he shoved a heavy-set female police officer.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. The fight keeps going. Guys just walking around in the back. There's no one to hit, so they just mosey through. They go into the hallway. LaPark is out there in street clothes, but his mask. So he's got like jeans and a blue t-shirt and his arms are crossed. You're like, you see the skull just poke around the corner and look down the hallway and then poke back. Oh, God, what else? It went forever. We mentioned that part, right? That's important. It went forever. And, they beat up the limo. There was a joke. Larry had a line in here about keying the limo, so there you go. And that was finally that. Damien versus Hector Garza. We had Fun Lucha for 1 minute. Then Eddie Guerrero enters the ring with a microphone, and the ref calls for the DQ.
This is so dumb. And then Mike Tenay, because no one knows what's going on. Mike Tenay goes, isn't he supposed to be in Japan for an extended tour?
Yep.
Did he actually say Japan or the Orient?
He said Japan.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah.
I'm stunned.
And then Larry. See, before Eddie came out, Hector Garza and Damien actually did a couple of moves. And of course, Larry has to just bury all the Mexicans. And he goes, these guys are fun to watch, but they don't have a long life expectancy. I'm fixing to just write this rant. And then Eddie comes out, and I realize, 2 of the 3 guys in here are in fact dead.
There's that.
Now, granted, one guy had a heart attack, one guy had cancer, but yeah, not the right time to do that rant.
Well, he didn't know.
He is a goddamn idiot, though. You know how many of these luchadors are still wrestling today?
We did this rant once.
Yeah.
We went through and checked.
If you went through and took all of the American wrestlers, and you went through and took all of the luchadors, and percentage-wise, what percentage, which is a larger percentage of guys still working today, it would probably be the luchadors. Virtually guaranteed.
So Eddie starts talking to Hector and Damien. He asked them, what has Eric Bischoff ever done for you? I thought, well, they are having a match on the #1 wrestling program in the entire world. That seems significant to me.
They're making a lot more than they make in Tijuana.
Yep. But Eddie explains they only ever get to wrestle each other. They don't get to wrestle anyone else to move up the card. He says, it's true you guys are cramming 5 or 6 guys in your rental car and 3 or 4 guys in your hotel room. And they nod because they are geeks. And he says none of us can rise above Eddie or Eric and Hogan unless we all team up. And he passes them t-shirts, and he introduces themselves as the Latino World Order.
Fans booed mightily. Need another faction on this show, you see.
More, yeah. So let's count. That's the NWO, the Wolfpack. I guess the Flock is dead, but the Horsemen are back. Mm-hmm. The LWO. I guess that's it. Shivani says, let's go to Mike Tenay. Instead, we see the Wolfpack, who are outside having a huddle. They seem to come to some sort of plan, and then Tenay arrives to interview them. And Ash tells Tenay, we are looking for Scott Hall. He is at a bar somewhere. We know 4 or 5 places he could be. We're going to go bar to bar to find him.
This is a show-long storyline.
Oh.
I just want you to remember, this is a show-long storyline.
Yeah.
As we work our way to the payoff.
Yes. Tenay and the camera crew want to tag along, and the Wolfpack didn't say yes. Basically said you can follow if you want to. And that was that. And we'll get back to this shortly. Psychosis versus Kidman.
This was actually a great match. Yes, but I will say that Kidman last week got destroyed by Scott Hall. Randomly, just beaten clean in the middle and ping-ponged around like a geek. Comes out here and nobody gives a shit about him. Now granted, maybe that had nothing to do with what happened last week, but I couldn't help but think they treated this guy like a geek last week. He comes out this week, and nobody gives a shit about him. They had a very, very good match. They actually got the crowd into it there at the very end. But man, they did a number on Kidman. Did a number on him with that Scott Hall match.
Yeah.
They did not make him a bigger star.
No.
Getting the rub from Scott Hall.
No. You know who else did a number on Kidman was Psychosis.
Oh, jeez.
There was a point very early in this match where Shivani said Kidman it was, and this is a quote, trying to fight off the advances of Psychosis. Mm-hmm. And I chuckled and said, what kind of match am I watching here? The more I watched this, I realized he was right. Kidman was fighting for his life in there. Psychosis gives him a gourd buster, drops him right in his head. Comes off the top rope, kicks him right in his head. Throws him over the top rope, Kidman's back smashes into the apron.
What about the moonsault where he hit him with his knee?
Does a moonsault and knees him right in the head.
Well, at the end of the day, Kidman got his revenge.
I guess. Because Psychosis tries to top rope Rana. Kidman hangs onto the ropes. And Kidman does a shooting star, almost a knee drop, really. He does a shooting star, and he comes down right across Psychosis' sternum. It was a very good match if you ignore the fact they both nearly died several times.
You know, Neville pulls off his shooting star press absolutely perfectly every time. Mero, if you watch on Raw, pulls it off perfectly every time. Kidman is very, very hit or miss. He's always a little cattywampus. He's always a little bit crooked. It only gets worse as time goes on.
Kidman looks so cool until the landing. And then you just cross your fingers.
Well, he doesn't go like completely straight.
Yeah.
Like he jumps and he kind of twists kind of a little bit. And,
yeah.
Trust me, in gymnastics, this would not be a 10.
That's right.
It'd be a solid 6.
That's right.
Or Warrior. Stupid scores are nowadays.
Would you like to go on a rant about that?
No, it's just so stupid. It's like now it's out of a 16, but this one's out of a 14. It's stupid. Just do 1 to 10.
Warrior does a backstage monologue.
Yeah, they kept him out of the arena because he was booed unmercifully last week.
So he's in this room and there's strange flashing lights everywhere. It looked like he talked for like 4 hours and they edited it down because there were cuts throughout, like fade cuts. So he's talking about their first match with Hogan in Toronto. He talks about that for a while. Then I followed him for about 20% of this. And then he's ranting about the power of the individual, the power of the pack, taking control of your life, fulfilling your destiny. He says, when I sleep at night, I am very peaceful because I am wreaking havoc in Hogan's dreams. And he snorted.
Pretty much sucked.
Scott Steiner is surrounded by trophies.
This was awesome.
It was. He cuts a promo on Rick. First, as he's talking, there's shots of the two of them as kids, like floating by on the screen. It's an NWO promo. It's all in black and white and a bunch of camera cuts and stuff. Says, Rick, when I was a little brother, I was protected you. I was a little brother protecting you from the bullies. Well, that free ride's over.
My favorite part of this is he's running over all of his trophies, and he's like, I won this. This is from a bodybuilding contest. This was a one-on-one, blah, blah, blah. And as he's going through all of these trophies and things that he's won in his life, finally, perfectly at random, he just goes, you got one of these too. And then he just keeps going.
Yes. Well, he did have a point. Like,
that was very nice of you.
All these singles championships are his, and all the tag team championships, yes, Rick's got a trophy, but he was the one who really won them.
Sure.
He says, I was always the star of that team. I was the one who carried that team. I was the one people paid to see. And as he's saying this, they are showing clips of young Scott Steiner, and he was telling the Lord's truth. Young Scott Steiner was unbelievable. I forget that sometimes. And finally he says, I've got all these trophies, and Rick Steiner at Halloween Havoc, you're going to be my next trophy. This is a really good promo.
It paled in comparison to what was next. Mike Tenay is in his own car.
Yeah.
There's a cameraman in the back seat filming over his shoulder.
With a giant light. How he can see out this windshield, I don't know.
Tenay is driving, he's following the Hummer, and he's narrating to the guy in the back, while every now and then glancing back at him as he's narrating. I want, like, Mike Tenay should have been in his car on every single Nitro, following somebody somewhere. It was so awesome. Just completely wacky.
He's looking back and saying, I can still see them. They're right ahead of me.
I'm going to try and keep following them.
I'm going to try. We're going to a bar, I guess?
Yeah, we're going somewhere. I'm driving this car.
Two things. He was so totally, at this point, it changes. He was so totally the uncool hanger-on, desperate to play with the cool kids for a night.
That's what made it so awesome.
Yeah, yes.
He's just a fella doing his job.
2, they've been driving for like an hour at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Where is this bar? Then, Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell come out for a promo.
This was unbelievable. This was so great.
Steiner's promo is a lot of the same stuff he said in the video package. And finally, Rick comes out. He says Scotty and Buff are sissies who are afraid to fight him.
Okay, this did start out shitty because Rick had to make sure to say, it was in this same building, Buff, where you got hurt for real.
Yes.
And now you want to come out and make a joke of it.
Yeah.
He says, I got someone here who doesn't think it's a joke. So he proceeds to call out Judy Bagwell.
Buff Bagwell's mom.
Buff's mom. And the crowd popped for this.
Oh, yeah.
And she strides down to the ring and she jumps up on the apron. And she's not a wrestler. She's a mom. Clearly a fan. They give her a mic, and God bless her, like, she could not keep that goddamn mic by her face. So, like, the audience, I'm sure, couldn't hear half of this. But her bug eyes and her passion and what little they could hear about it, she got such an amazing reaction. Talking about how your father and I were watching this on TV. We didn't know if you'd ever walk again. We were with you at the hospital. You got 10,000 letters from fans. You called me crying at the Georgia Dome how you needed my support one more time. It's not Rick's fault. She's just on fire. Buff grabs the mic, talking about this decision that he made, and he says, what did he say?
He said,
I'm about how he supported them.
I support the whole family. Without me, you don't eat.
That's right. She gets in the ring and she said, when you were a little Buff, I slapped you once, and you told me never to slap you again. And then she rears back and she slaps him across the face, at which point, Scott Steiner, whose gimmick is he is a crazy fucker, he proceeds to be a crazy fucker. He grabs her by the wrist, and like a total crazy man, he screams, "You're not my mom! Get the hell out of my ring!" Rick jumps Scott from behind.
Well, yes.
Knocks him to the ground. Judy grabs Buff by the earlobe, drags him out of the ring. The place is going nuts.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, you know what this was? We've seen this a million times in wrestling. This was going to be a one-time deal.
Oh, no.
But she was so good, they decided, we've got to get her back.
Yeah.
And worse, once they got her back, she figured out that she was a star.
Yes.
And it's all downhill from there. But let it be known, for all of you that joke about Judy Bagwell on a pole matches and all of the other bullshit and Buff's mom, her big debut was fucking great. This was awesome.
Couldn't agree more.
If it had not been for Vince McMahon in the hospital, Judy Bagwell would have been the star of these two shows on this Monday night.
So they go to break, and they come back and say, during the break, Scott Steiner and Brian Adams attacked Rick Steiner, and now the match is going on. Brian Adams and Rick Steiner. Scott's out there for a while because we need somebody who's entertaining, but then J.J. Dillon ejects him, and then this match got awful. There's a long, long, long chin lock. They fight out of that, and then Brian Adams decides it's time for a long nerve pinch. Now, first I thought he was choking him. Rick Steiner's lying on his back over by the ropes, and Adams' hand is like on his... One hand's on his like chest area and near his throat. I thought it was supposed to be a chokehold, and the ref was not counting 5 and it went forever. I was confused. Then they explained it's a shoulder pinch, and I looked in.
You pinch that nerve.
And Adams had like 2 fingers dug into Rick's armpit or something. And Rick's lying there and not moving.
Let me tell you something. I've been to the masseuse many times, and when they do that weird pec massage where they reach into your armpit and they squeeze where your pec connects to your shoulder and they like pinch, that fucking sucks.
Sure.
So I buy this hold. I just submitted.
So Rick's lying on his back. Brian Adams is kneeling over him. He's on one knee, got one hand on Rick's chest, the other in the armpit. No one's moving.
Not even the crowd.
There's no movement. Nothing happens. There's nothing going on. 54 seconds go by. I'm just staring at my computer saying, is anything going to happen? I thought my computer was broke. I thought my signal froze. No, they just sat there. And then it gets worse. Rick finally starts to make a comeback. He whips Bryan Adams in. I don't know what Rick was trying.
I do.
I'm quite certain Rick doesn't know.
He does it all the time.
I'm sure Bryan Adams doesn't know.
He does it all the time. It's a power slam off the ropes, but he does it weird. Like, he doesn't do like a real big rotating power slam. He does it in every match.
Yep.
Bryan Adams had no idea what was going on.
Okay, so two of us.
It was Adams. He just went up and didn't know what to do, so he went straight down on his head.
So he's coming straight down on his head. Rick realizes, oh no, he's going straight down on his head, and does his best to break his fall. So Craig tweeted out a still shot. In live action, it's not that scary.
No.
Because Rick's he's going down slowly, but it looks bad.
Oh, it looks really bad.
It looks very, very, very bad. And right after that, Rick wins with the very same bulldog that paralyzed Buff in the first place. A terrible wrestling match. Terrible.
Yeah, but it got a pop, and Tony put it over as a big win for Rick Steiner.
Okay, it's time for the pub crawl. The Wolfpack pub crawl. Here's what happens. Mike Tenay is there. The camera guy gets out. There's the Humvee. They go into what appears to be a hotel. They go through some doors. They note, hey, there's bathrooms here. They keep on walking. And they walk. And they walk. And they walk. It's a big-ass fucking hotel bar. There's tables everywhere. You can see the bartender yonder in the distance. And they walk, and they walk, and they walk. I don't know what actual pop song they're playing on the speakers here, but they edited it in with the most hokey blues, edited it over with the hokiest blues music of all time. So Nash spots the pool tables. And apparently, Scott Hall's a big fan of billiards. He tries to ambush Hall. He sneaks up to the corner, and he pokes his head around, and there's no one there. And they look around. There is no Scott Hall. They all turn. They walk back. No one in the bar, by the way, reacts like these are major stars.
Or the camera.
Or the camera. Well, that's a good point. They may have just been hammered. They walk, and they walk, and they walk, and they get back in the Hummer, and they drive away. This made TV.
They do like 5 of these segments just so we don't waste all of our time here. One after another, they go. There's nobody there. The best part is Mike Tenay is there. He's got a camera crew. He's got a light. He's documenting this for these guys. They still don't let him ride with them.
That is true. That is true.
They got a big, giant fucking Humvee. And they're like, just follow us in your fucking car.
Bring your Tercel.
Because you ain't going with us.
Yeah. So, I was already heating the show.
Well, I'll recap it quick.
Okay.
Hogan and Eric came out. Hogan vowed to beat the Warrior.
Didn't say a thing about his limo.
It said like 15 minutes. Took him 15 minutes to say this.
Dude.
The only highlight here is when he threatened to kick Warrior's rear end.
Fighting words.
Went for a long time. Time for a video package, because there hadn't been one in 3 minutes. It was a 4 Horsemen video package. I don't know if this music was edited in, but it's the 4 Horsemen, and there's this funky dance song playing. With somebody, what did they say? Some guy demanded a fat beat.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe they're delivering fat beatings. Maybe that's what he meant. Canyon and DDP.
This was so bizarre.
That's a good word.
This was like a modern match where...
Totally.
Like, they did a bunch of moves. They kicked out of a bunch of near falls. They teased finishes that there weren't finishes. Anyway, here's the thing. DDP laid out a great match. If your plan is to go in there and have a great match with Canyon so that the people will cheer...
We're on the same wavelength here.
And everybody will go crazy and they'll go like, man, DDP and Canyon had a great match on Nitro. However, DDP is getting a championship match
right.
against the utterly unstoppable monster Goldberg.
Right.
And he goes in there and he sells and he sells and he sells for Canyon.
Yeah.
And then finally, Raven jumps in with a microphone for the disqualification.
Yes.
In context, this was so stupid.
Yes.
Like, it was a really good match, but for the purpose that it was designed to serve, I mean, it should have been designed to serve. It was so dumb.
You're not even mentioning Lodi's out there and he gets involved, the ref gets distracted. Raven hits the ring and hits Paige with a cutter. The whole point of this Goldberg feud is Page has one bullet in his pocket, one bullet in his gun, and if he can hit this diamond cutter, maybe he can beat the monster. Well, Raven hits Page with the cutter, and Page just kicks out.
DDP should have beaten he should have beaten Canyon
with the cutter
in 1 minute with the diamond cutter. He should have been beating everybody in 1 minute with the diamond cutter. This guy is what they call a weak challenger.
In storyline.
When you have a weak challenger, you have to do everything you can to make the people believe that he can win. And the whole thing is, everything they did at the end, where the heels beat on DDP, Goldberg runs down, they both clear the ring together, and then they have a stare down. You could have done the same goddamn thing by having DDP win with the cutter in a minute. Raven jumps him after the match, and you do the same thing.
Yeah.
Could have done all of that.
You're only missing one thing, Brian. This is a 3-hour show.
Doesn't matter. You could have had
a video package.
Mike Tenay go to a 5th bar.
Now, I will talk about the post-match, because for all the reasons Brian has critiqued this, I kind of hated the match. In a vacuum, it was a fine wrestling match, but for what it's supposed to do is counterproductive. But then, they're beating on Page. Goldberg hits the ring, hits an A-plus spear on Canyon. Canyon takes a great bump for it, too. It looked awesome. And Goldberg pops up, and if that spear was an A+, the punch to the mouth he gave to Lodi was an A++. And then he hits Lodi with a jackhammer. Raven hits Page with the diamond cutter, and we get the Goldberg-Page stare down, and they're screaming at each other, and the fans are screaming, and JJ's there to make sure they don't fight. The post-match was awesome.
I want to mention 2 things. First off, going back to those clowns on Raw, when they beat up Shaggy, 2Dope, and Violent J. Violent J is flat on his back, and he's a little fat. And one of the headbangers, he doesn't stand over him and hold the sides of the chair and drive the edge like into Violent J's stomach like you always see somebody do from that position. He stands next to him. He lifts the chair high over his head like he's going to do a normal chair shot, and he fucking brings it down and smashes Violent J right in the belly with this chair. I laughed and laughed and laughed. Violent J didn't, protect himself.
No.
He laid flat on his back with his belly in the air, and this headbanger just smashed him in the stomach with this chair.
You just forgot that and had to mention...
Well, I remember because you were talking about the punch to the face.
I see. That's great spot.
For some reason, I remembered that.
Well, it was awesome. And
by the way, the other thing I wanted to mention was everything that I said about this match is a critique. Earlier in this show, we had 2 segments where fans were asked who would win, and a bunch of damn fans thought the DDP was going to win. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he wasn't a weak challenger.
Pub crawl update.
They strike out again.
No, I want to talk about I want to talk about this.
I'll be here all night.
Tenay turns to the camera and says, "They tried to ditch us." I bet they did. So going through this bar, it's a much worse bar than the other bar. Everyone still ignores them. There is no Scott Hall. Conan says, "Hey, let's go to a strip club." Kevin Nash, the buzzkill, says, "No," and they left. And this whole thing was so lame. Like the Wolfpack.
Well, hold on. That was also an inside reference. Kevin Nash said no because he said that Scott had been banned from every strip club in America. So the point was, why bother?
I see.
We ain't going to find him there. To Kevin Nash on this night, it was more important to beat up Scott Hall in a bathroom than to hang out with hot strippers.
Yeah. Now, the whole image of the Wolfpack is they're basically the cool heels, or at least the cool anti-heroes. They don't give a fuck. They're very relaxed. They're very laid back, and they're cool. So you'd think, hey, going to party with these guys would be awesome. Wrong. Their night of the town is drive around forever, go to a bar, walk around, don't do anything fun, leave. They were so lame.
Vinny, they're on a mission to find Scott Hall. Are you not paying attention?
Had the Disciple versus Lenny Lane.
It sucked.
This is Disciple's first match after being converted. And he came out wearing the exact same...
It was the second. He had another one last week.
I apologize. Came out wearing the exact same thing as when he was in the NWO.
He's still a disciple. I guess he's a disciple of Warrior now. Here's how they open things up. This is the spot they came up with. Lenny did a Warrior impression. He runs around screaming his head off and he shakes them ropes. And Disciple says, "I'll show you how it's done." And Disciple goes to do a better Warrior impression, but it's a trap, and Lenny jumps in from behind. Yeah. They do this match. It's not very good. Disciple fires up like Warrior. Everyone boos, and Disciple wins with a stunner. He goes to get a promo. Says he's done carrying Hogan's bags. He's his own man now and forever.
I bet you that's not true.
So he cuts his promo and he starts heading up the ramp, and Hulk Hogan starts running after him because Hogan is now angry and offended that the Disciple is no longer going to carry his fucking bags.
He's gotten to.
So he runs after him. They go backstage, and Disciple disappears in this room, and Hogan's running after him like Hulk Hogan, and he's screaming like, "Come back here, you idiot!" He follows him into this room. It's empty. And for some reason, the room is empty, but Hulk Hogan decides, I have got to look in the mirror.
He's a narcissist.
So he just starts looking in the mirror, and in the mirror appears the Warrior.
By the way, the announcers could see
Let's get into this.
the image.
But here's the thing. So Hogan can see the image.
Yeah.
Right.
Eric cannot.
No.
Right.
So the storyline is that Hulk Hogan is out of his mind.
Sure.
However, yes, the announcers could see Warrior, as well as all of us.
So we're all out of Hogan's mind.
We're either all out of our minds, like Hogan, or Hogan is right and Eric is out of his mind,
Or Eric is blind.
which doesn't play into the storyline at all.
No.
This was so dumb.
Hogan sees Warrior, freaks out, thinks Warrior's behind him. He's not there. Looks back at the mirror, cuts this gibberish promo because he's supposed to be Looney Tunes. The announcers are like, "Look, there's the Warrior. I see the Warrior in the mirror." Bischoff says, "What are you looking at?" Announcers go silent because nobody's smarting them up. But yes, in storyline, based on how this actually went down, you, I, the announcers, all the fans, figments of Hogan's imagination.
Yeah, we're all nuts.
No, we're figments of Hogan's imagination, and he's nuts.
Sure, something like
I
that.
don't know. It sucked. It was really stupid. It was really, really stupid. Back to the pub crawl. Tanay notes what I had noted. Every bar they go to was shittier than the last. This last one, I seriously think it may have been somebody's house. So Nash walks in. He starts punching somebody. And I thought, I hope that's Hall. It was. So they have this brawl.
Well, this was the weirdest one yet because this was the first one where as soon as they went in, not only did the fans acknowledge them and act like they were big stars, but they're like looking straight into the camera and they're mugging for the camera. And I'm like, so the final one where you're going to do the big brawl, you didn't smarten anybody up? Did these fans not know this was going to happen?
Well, they were watching Nitro on the screens.
They were just totally
There were
gobsmacked.
small women who didn't look old enough to be there running up and waving to the camera as these two giants have a brawl on the pool table behind them. They disappear into the men's room. Nothing happens for a while.
It was so weird. They go into the commode, according to Tony Schiavone, and Nash throws Hall into the bathroom, and they shut the door. And Tanay desperately wants to go into the bathroom with him. And first,
That is weird.
First, the door opens, and Nash is like,
Well,
just get out of here.
it takes like 3 minutes.
Sure. But Nash waves him off first. Like, get out of here. It's kind of like, well, what did you want us to see this for? Like, and then after he waves everybody off, then he changes his mind. He goes, come in here. So he calls in Tanay with the camera, and literally in the bathroom is Scott Hall on his knees with his head in the toilet. And Nash makes some comment about sad state of affairs or whatever. And then, after going to 5 different establishments, during WCW Monday Nitro, he put the guy's head in the toilet, and then they just go home. That was the payoff.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Here's what they did.
That's what they came up with. It's one of those things where even if you wrote this all down on paper, it doesn't sound good.
No. And then Bischoff came out. Bischoff assures us all Hogan is fine, and then he switches gears, starts to run down Ric Flair, makes fun of a southern accent, which Ric Flair doesn't have. Crowd demands Flair. Bischoff says he's not here, he's a coward. Out comes Arn Anderson, says, I am the horseman in charge of head games. The champ is here, let's bring him on down.
I thought that was Flair's job.
Ooh, indeed. Eventually, out comes Reed Flair. He's 10. He is incredibly nervous. He has his wrestling singlet on. He has his medal on. And God bless him, because it's not his fault he's 10. This bowl cut he had. I thought he was actually wearing a headband. It was the shadow of his hair. So, he also noted the Mo Howard haircut. So, he announces, at the behest of Arn, that he is there to handle his dad's light work. He does a couple of duck walks like Bob Backlund used to do, the old amateur wrestling training thing. And Eric just asks what's going on. And next thing you know, Reed is tackling Bischoff and taking him down repeatedly. And when Bischoff is finally able to get to his feet, Reed goes hide behind Arn and does the Flair strut and the hair thing. Arn makes fun of Bischoff for being taken down twice by a 10-year-old. He was happy, and he goes to leave. They go to break, they come back. Bischoff is irate. He's in the ring. Elizabeth is in the ring. He demands she call Ric Flair, get him in the ring. Eventually, she gets a hold of Beth, who the announcers say is Flair's wife. And Bischoff screams at her that he wants Flair and he wants Flair now. And of course, the whole gimmick was he didn't want Flair. So they successfully made Bischoff angry enough to demand Flair. So Flair comes out. A bunch of NWO B-teamers come out. The Horsemen brawl with them. They get fought away. And then David and Reed Flair hit the ring too. And they all celebrate, and that was that. And
David Flair.
I don't think it was his debut, but for his in-ring debut, actually probably was. As far as literally being in the ring. Only thing I'd add to this is that the Reed Flair stuff is like the Owen stuff. It's just all sad.
It is very, very sad. David in there is standing right next to Chris Benoit, and literally the only things I remember about David Flair's entire career, I remember he had a bunch of really horrible matches. I remember he introduced us to Tori Wilson, and I remember that Chris Benoit absolutely beat the shit out of him in one of the greatest squash matches ever. It's going to be a while before we see it.
Is it Tori or was it Stacy?
It's Tori.
Continue.
Yeah. We'll see. He brings in a hot blonde, everyone.
I remember that.
Yeah. Main event is supposed to be Sting versus Bret Hart. Sting comes out. Bret comes out, gets halfway down the aisle, just goes to the back. Sting goes after him. Now, you will recall that this whole storyline is that Sting is an idiot. Well, here is Sting. His friends are out on the town, hopefully drinking it up by now. Larry points out, all your friends are gone. This is a trap. But Sting is stupid, so he charges ahead.
It's definitely Tori.
Okay.
I ain't forgetting that. You kidding me?
They brawl back towards Hogan's dressing room, and they start fighting amongst tables, and what ensues is the lamest 5-minute backstage brawl.
It was so bad.
Like, Sting gets suplexed through a table, and Bret goes, he puts a chair around the knee, but then drops the trash can on the chair, very clearly in a way that would not hurt the knee at all. They keep on fighting and fighting. Sting's down. Bret goes over like a golf cart to run him over, but he can't start it, so he just gets out, and they keep fighting. This was like a Naked Gun spoof of a Steve Austin backstage fight.
Yeah, at one point he went to grab a trash can, but it was actually anchored to the wall.
Sting grabs a trash can, it is roped down. If Steve Austin, this happened to him, he would have just torn off the whole pillar.
Yeah.
Sting just puts down the trash can and walks away. They're fighting, and like one guy, Doug Dillinger, walks up, and at this point both guys say, I guess I'm done, and they walk their separate directions. And Bret walks in one door, and Sting walks down a hallway. Everyone in the crowd just starts to boo because they did not get their main event match, and the show ends. This was so lame.
At one point, Sting had Bret in the Scorpion Deathlock, and he just sat there, and the whole time Zbyszko is telling him, he's not back far enough. It's never going to work.
Yeah, Larry's burying his technique on what was actually a very, very good Scorpion Deathlock on the cement. Because as we all know, if it's on the cement or on a table, hurts. It's always worse.
The backstage stuff on this show was so bad.
Can you imagine being there live at this show and you're promised that match and you don't get to see any of it?
I only ever went to one WCW show, and it was Spring Stampede in Tacoma, which was actually a great show.
It was an awesome show.
But I watched these Nitros, and I just think, what would it be like to be there? And it's hard for me to process. They're so weird. Dude,
at the time, they were still selling tons of tickets for these shows. Don't look at me, dude. I don't know. But I do know that actually Craig and I are both right. David Flair ended up with both Stacy and Tori Wilson.
Oh, there you go.
You.
Man, what a life.
She wore that tiny...
Yes, Miss Hancock.
Yes, that's
God,
her.
that's right. Well, there you go. We have that to look for. Well, Nitro.
Boy.
Listen, can somebody tell me why Rock and Mark Henry had a match?
No.
I need to know.
There's no answer.
I'm asking the listeners, Vinny, not you.
I'm answering the question for you. No, there is no answer.
I'm sure there's an answer.
Since we're going into Nitro.
It was signed.
This first hour of Nitro.
The most useless
worst.
hour of television I've ever seen.
The worst.
What are you talking about? It's had an all-time classic match in the first hour.
You must have watched the wrong show.
Oh, no.
Perhaps you watched the 1997 show.
I watched the right show, all right.
Well, let's begin. First of all, Eric Bischoff is backstage ordering security not to let Ric Flair into the building.
Exact opposite of Vincent Austin. He did not tell them to leave the door open.
So they showed the aftermath of the terribly lame brawl between Bret Hart and Sting last week. You will recall that brawl ended when the combatants got bored and walked away from each other. So here we are. They recap what they could find of the best parts, and then afterwards, they're trying to get Sting onto a stretcher. What? Why?
He walked away.
Not to mention, he comes out just fine this week. This was so stupid.
This is also stupid. After this, they go to commercial. They come back. They play clips of that incredibly lame brawl. Then Bret is on Thunder, challenging Sting for Halloween Havoc. Then we get a Hogan Hart Sting video package recapping everything we just already saw. Go to commercial. We have clips of WCW stars appearing on Wall Street, the best part of which is they just happened to use the Hardy Boys theme song.
Yep.
Now, I know it was just random generic stock music. They grabbed and stuck with the Hardys, so they, WCW grabbed the same place. But I'm watching this whole time, this whole clip, I'm just waiting for Jeff to senton off something.
Or Matt to come in and scream delete.
Yes. Sadly, none of that happened.
It was 13 minutes of recaps and videos.
Yeah.
Before we finally got a match.
I'm not detailing them. After the Wall Street stuff, we are now 9 minutes into the show. Now the opening credits roll. We then have clips of Meng attacking Chris Adams on Thunder, and Wrath comes out.
Why the fuck would you need clips of that?
I don't know.
I mean, seriously.
I don't know.
I love Meng. Why do we need clips of that?
I guess to explain what happened shortly here. So Wrath comes out, has a brawl with Meng. It's ugly, but kind of ugly in a good way because it's a fight. Then they go to commercial. Then they come back and get a match. As Brian noted, it is 13 minutes into the show when the bell rings to the opening match. And that opening match is Wrath versus Lodi, which the closing bell rings 14 minutes into the show.
Yep.
Meltdown finish, baby.
I melted down. So Wrath wins. Meng comes out on stage. They stare at each other from a distance. They meet in the aisle and start to brawl. It's the first interesting thing that has happened on the show. Two big, scary monsters trying to kill each other. And Tony says, well, let's cut away to show clips of Eric Bischoff talking. And they cut away.
They literally were in the middle. It had just started.
Yeah.
The undefeated Wrath versus the unstoppable monster Meng. They start this wild brawl in the aisle. And when Tony said, let's go to a recap.
They're throwing punches.
After 13 fucking minutes of recaps and a 1 minute match, they threw to another recap. I was furious.
So the recap is Bischoff and the Horsemen last week. They go to commercial. They come back. Let's do a video package. It's Goldberg Page video package. In all seriousness, were they deliberately attempting to chase people to Raw? Was this their goal?
Which was a tape show.
The only good thing about
Well,
this...
keep in mind this was an unopposed hour, I believe, so...
Maybe they were chasing him to the dog show or the news. I don't know. They could not possibly expect people to stay tuned to TNT to watch this. Now, I will say this. In this Goldberg Page video package, when they showed Goldberg taking out Lodi with a paw to the head in slow motion, that was worth it. Now, Brian, I'm assuming when you talk about the all-time classic match, because there's only one other match in the first hour, you must be referring to Kendall Windham versus Dale Torborg.
Sure am, dude. Dale Torborg,
the demon,
was a member of
Not
the
yet.
WCW pit crew.
Yeah.
And so they put him in the pit crew outfit. They announced he's been training at the power plant.
Worst advertisement for the power plant ever.
Listen, dude, like, I know what the power plant was. I've made fun of it now for 19 years. But goddamn, watching this match. Like, they didn't do a fucking thing at that power plant except make these guys just do calisthenics. And, like, it's just mind-blowing. Like, do you know who else came out of the power plant? Goldberg.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
How the fuck did they even get one guy out of that power plant?
I don't know.
So this fucking match is just... Let me tell you how bad this match is. It's not Barry Windham. It's Kendall Windham.
Right.
Smaller, younger brother.
However,
Shittier.
he looked like Barry Windham
Yes.
in his attempts to carry Dale Torborg through this match.
If you've been paying attention to this show and the Sunday night show over the past month or so, I've had a lot of very, very bad things to say about Kendall Windham.
Oh,
and I take
God.
back none of them. But he was so many head and shoulders, arms,
Dude.
legs, and feet above Dale Torborg.
He was trying so hard to have a minus 4-star match instead of a minus 5-star match with this fucking guy. Fans are chanting boring.
Which, by the way, how could you put Kendall Windham and Dale Torborg on TV and not think people are going to chant boring?
Fuck if I know. And so, finally, like, I'd been told about this match. Like, all day Sunday, I'd have people texting me on Observer Live who'd watched this match. And they all mentioned that at the end of the match, Dale Torborg blows out his knee, and he still gets the win. Okay? So it's time to watch it. And how did Dale Torborg blow out his damn knee?
Running.
He just jumped and did a kick.
He did the bicycle kick like
And then
Sheamus.
fell down and grabbed his knee. And yes, he covered Kendall Windham. The ref counts 2. Kendall kicks out. The ref counts 3. Kendall gets up furious. I don't know why. Like, he wanted this to go longer. He does the most ridiculous kick of the bottom rope in Fury you've ever seen.
Yes.
He basically mocks the guy as he's there with a torn ACL or whatever. Like, this is your winner to the fans. Walks away. This was fucking just abysmal. It was abysmal.
Just, in all seriousness, one of the very worst wrestling matches I ever saw.
How in
Like,
the
it was
fuck?
it was merely horrible until the end. And the end, when a guy blew out his knee doing his own finish, it's like it was a non-contact injury. He's jumping him down on his leg.
It was, it was like Sid when he did that move, except obviously Sid was 100 times worse.
Yes, because
Sid at least came off the middle rope.
That's true.
yeah.
This guy just jumped in the air. I mean, who put this on TV?
Well, they were live.
Fuck 'em.
Even before,
That's what I gotta say.
even before the finish, I was asking how the hell they allowed Dale Torborg to go on TV.
Hell if I know. Hell if I know.
We're still in the first hour, everyone. We get Nitro Party clips.
Dude, we were 30 minutes in.
So they're doing the Nitro Party, and it's, everyone's dressing up and posing, and they've got the show on and playing video games. And then they start doing entrances in which they have pyro on their own porch.
Yes, they did.
Were these Nimrods trying to burn their house down? Was that the goal? Time for more clips. The Goldberg Page Flock angle from last week. Sting comes out for a promo.
Oh my god.
He is now the Cesar Romero Joker. He's growing out a mustache, but still covering it with face paint.
So you know how Warrior has been doing all these backstage segments because they figured out that like people are turning on him, so they're trying to hide him backstage. Finally this week they just decided, fuck. I mean, he's got to go out of there one of these days. Who cares now? They send this guy out, and he has one job. You can ask Sting if you can be his partner tonight in a match with Hogan and Bret Hart. Fucking Warrior cuts a totally modern, scripted, wacky WWE
It was,
promo.
actually, yeah.
As you know, he says, I swear to God he said this. I wrote this down. This is one of his rambling lines. As you know, I have an ongoing battle with Hulk Hogan set to culminate at Halloween Havoc. He fucking said that. I couldn't even write anything else down. I was dying just writing that line down. People are just booing this guy like crazy. Every time he says some witty line, he pauses for the cheers. Instead, it's just droning boos. This was so embarrassing.
So the upshot is...
Oh, please tell me.
Well,
I must hear the upshot.
That may be the wrong phrase. The takeaway of this is...
The upshot is it's almost over.
Yeah. Sting had called out Hogan and Brett. Warrior says, I want to be your partner. Then he leaves, and Sting also leaves. There was no confirmation of anything here.
Right.
Hey, time to really fire things up. Let's air a Goldberg Page video package.
Well, the upshot is we're finally in hour 2.
Mike Tenay gives a history lesson to everyone about how Warrior and Sting had not teamed in 12 years. Time for some talking.
Oh, my God.
Bischoff,
Hogan, and the Giant. So, for those of you that have not been paying attention to this show, as we've noted, Giant is about to leave. He's about to go to WWE. And there have been all of these rumors that he was leaving. So, they got him here tonight. I don't know how they got him here tonight. I guess he's still under contract. So, they bring him out, and the announcers make a big point that, oh, look who's here. It's the Giant. Please keep all of this in mind as we journey through this show, that the Giant is back here tonight. On his way out.
By the way, what belt does he have?
Tag.
Oh, that's right.
What?
Fuck if I know.
I don't know how you knew.
I looked at it.
Is it Giant and Hall?
I don't know who his partner is, but I recognize it's the tag belt.
The and there's bigger problems WCW had, but the complete evaporation of the tag team division in the past year. I know it was so good for a while, and now it's just everyone broke up. So Bischoff, Hogan, and Giant come out for a promo. Hogan says Giant's going to end Goldberg's winning streak tonight, and then he took a long time to say, I accept the challenge on behalf of Bret Hart to face Sting and Warrior tonight.
Calls himself Wood again.
Yep.
What is up with that?
He's Hollywood. He's Wood, baby.
He thought he was cool. Rarely has someone been so wrong about thinking they were cool.
Well, it's kind of disturbing when he's talking about partying with the Nitro Girls, and the Nitro Girls are partying with Wood.
You're not wrong. So as they're... Oh.
He didn't even think about this before he said it?
I'm sure he did.
Okay.
I'm sure he wanted you to know that the Nitro Girls were partying with his Wood.
It's not what he said, Brian.
I know, but that's what he's trying to... It's just stupid.
Should have called it Little Wood.
This sucks.
So as they're leaving, someone tells Bischoff that the Horsemen are here. Bischoff goes running back to confront them. After he gets outstage, then a limousine pulls up, which indicates Bischoff must have had somebody on top of the building with binoculars checking for limos.
Yeah, exactly like on Raw. He had an outlook.
So the limo shows up. It is, in fact, Ric Flair. They shout at each other for a while.
Then we got the second best promo on the show behind a goddamn doll, Bruce MacArthur.
The owner of the building.
Owner of the Blackhawks.
I see.
Which I guess his parents own the building.
Okay.
That's what I pieced together here.
Yeah. So he announces, I have a personal suite. The Horsemen are my guests tonight. You cannot stop us from going into our suite and watching the show.
Eric's argument was, I leased the building. I now own it.
Right. That was his claim.
And Bruce MacArthur's argument was, I own the fucking building. I own it.
Yes.
Eric didn't have a leg to stand on.
No.
But he was as big a dick as possible.
So Bruce MacArthur explains he has a personal skybox full of beautiful women and champagne.
10 to be exact.
And the Horsemen are headed in. Bischoff's ranting. I think security, there were 2 or 3 guys who were not smartened up. And they actually explained, this really is your boss. You really should let him go. And finally, they're all going in, and Bischoff's yelling at them. And I know it's 2017, and all the Benoit stuff is awkward. But when Chris Benoit turned to Eric Bischoff and said, talk to the hand,
yes,
I laughed.
Yeah, how could you not? That was a saying at one point.
I know, but I guarantee you, even in 98, it would have been awkward for Benoit. Time for a Warrior Hogan hype video. And it did occur to me, to be fair, as sick as I was of all of these by now, been watching WCW for like all of 1998 now, and usually the pay-per-view comes and I maybe know the main event and nothing else is happening. And like off the top of my head, I can tell you the top 4 or 5 matches of Halloween Havoc for sure. So, hey, credits to them.
So much money on Warrior that they were like, we got to make money on this pay-per-view. And to their credit, they were trying.
They tried. You're getting Warrior Hogan.
It's not their fault Warrior was such a flop.
You're getting Goldberg Page. You're getting Nash and Hall. There's one other I'd forgotten by now. Oh,
although actually,
Brett and Sting.
The mirror was their fault, which we saw a recap of.
Oh, we'll get to that. Oh, it's right here. Yeah, clips of Warrior's goofy promo, and then the mirror bit. The amazing thing to me, it's not that they re-aired the mirror bit, but they re-aired the announcer saying, hey, we see Warrior in the mirror.
That was a faux pas.
They could have edited that out easily.
Absolutely.
But no, we were reminded that we can all see the Warrior except Eric Bischoff. So he's the crazy one.
Or he's blind.
One of the two. Fit Finlay versus Alex Wright.
It's the best Alex Wright match
Oh my
I've
God.
ever seen.
This is the best 2-minute match of all time.
Alex Wright's coming down to the ring. They show a replay of last week where they went to a draw, and then they announced on Saturday night they went to a double countout. Alex Wright's coming down to the ring. I thought, man, third match here on Nitro. Finally something that fucking makes sense. Instead, it's Finlay. What?
I was fine with this, by the way.
I mean, it was a good match, but why in the world would you do a draw on Monday and a count out on Saturday and then just come back with a totally different match?
That's a great question.
I mean, maybe they're at the pay-per-view. I don't know. Like anyone's going to pay for that third match after those first two finishes?
So they have an awesome 2-minute match because Finlay forced Alex to match his intensity. And finally, Alex necks him on the top rope, hits a schoolboy, gets his feet on the ropes for the pin. Now, before the match, Alex explained he wanted to prove he was Europe's best wrestler. So he had beaten Norman Smiley, he had beaten British Bulldog, and now he's going to beat Finlay. So he did. But then Bulldog came out. For a brief minute, Bulldog and Finlay double-teamed Wright, and then Finlay dropped Bulldog with a cheap shot and left.
What a dick. That's all I could think.
La Parca and Ciclope and Viano 5
this match
versus Super Calo and Psychosis and Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Now,
is it 5 or 4?
I wrote 5. Oh, 4 got his neck hurt, didn't he?
I can't remember who got their neck hurt, but 4, he had 4 on his trunks.
No, maybe I got it wrong. It was a Viano.
Sure, yeah.
So I've always been told in Lucha Libre, if one man exits the ring, the other, one of his partners can jump in at any time without a tag.
Don't even try.
Listen, if you're a fan of logic-based,
right,
rule-enforced tag team wrestling, this was not the match for you.
Because one man would go for a pin, and then his partner would come in and break up the pin, and then take over on offense.
Over and over and over again.
It's whatever they want.
Just let them do their thing.
Haven't we figured that out yet?
Just let them do their thing. Listen, like I said, if you were a fan of following rules to the letter and building up a hot tag and...
hey, you know what? I am one of those people. I still love this match.
Fair point.
This match was great.
They had... It was all action, nonstop.
The best part of this match is
there's a lot of them.
They're getting ready for a train wreck spot to the outside, and La Parca is on the apron.
Oh,
yes.
And somebody was supposed to knock him off the apron,
right?
But they forgot. So La Parca, being a professional, he doesn't skip a beat. He struts, he slips, he falls off the apron.
Yes.
And they go right to the spot.
Yes.
I was like, this guy is the best.
So they're flying everywhere. The announcers totally give up on trying to remember who's on whose team. I don't blame them. I lost track. They were doing these three-way spots, and I was trying to figure out why guys were attacking their own partner, and then I realized, no, they're not partners. But as action, it was all really cool. The craziest thing was Psychosis doing a senton, not like a flip senton like Jeff Hardy, just jump out and throw your feet out in front of you senton, from the top rope to the floor. Don't do that, everyone. It's bad for you.
Oh, my gosh.
And Eddie and the LWO come out. I'm thinking, oh, God, this has been so fun, and we're not even going to finish. And then Chavo pins Ciclope with a tornado DDT. And Larry said, one of the teams won.
Well,
he was right.
He was right.
He was right.
Chavo was a little out of his element. He literally barely worked in Mexico at all before he signed with WCW.
Yeah.
So the idea that like Chavo's a luchador,
a stretch.
He's an American-style wrestler from a luchador family. But he tried. He was in there trying and wasn't a disaster, but yeah.
I know we talked about this last week, but Super Calo, the fact that the man is not in a wheelchair right now,
dude,
is
he's
amazing.
Still wrestling.
That's crazy.
He took a bump, like the very first move, he took like a lariat and landed on his head.
Yeah.
Out of his mind.
There was a million things going on here. I do want to note, just because he's awesome, Ciclope, who is better known as Halloween, The bump he took where he went for a drop kick and the guy moved and he went flying through the ropes to the floor.
Yes.
But it was totally safe.
Yeah.
It was to set up Psychosis' crazy move.
Right.
But yeah, see, Halloween was great. I just want to mention that. So Eddie and his crew come out and make peace. And Eddie cuts his promo. He says Bischoff is taking advantage of the economical situation at home. He's paying them peanuts. He should have said we should all fight together instead of being forced to fight each other. Only then can we get what we deserve. Psychosis accepts the t-shirt. Everyone else is outside kind of on the fence, and Chavo just takes his horse and leaves.
Rode off into the sunset.
I guess.
Gives a shit. This angle sucks.
Match was
Speaking of angles that suck, what in the fuck's going on?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, let me go back a little bit, all right? Buff Bagwell legit breaks his neck.
Right.
Okay. Buff Bagwell comes back after his injury. He's like the biggest babyface in the company.
Right.
As a swerve, they turn the guy heel. Now they're just going to turn him babyface again?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What?
They clearly have no idea what they're doing.
What?
So Scott Steiner comes out, runs down the local sports ball team, gets out his Big Papa Pump is your hookup, holla if you hear me, I think for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Second time, it was last week.
I'm mistaken. Starts talking about Marcus Bagwell and his mom. And says, you can be Marcus around your mom, but when you're buff and you're with me, when you're in my world, I'm the stuff, he says. So he's jealous of the attention that Buff is paying to his mother. Out come the Bagwells, and I'm certain this is going to be some kind of swerve where Mama gets embarrassed and humiliated, but no. Scott starts insulting her, says Buff is soft.
By the way, Mama Bagwell, like last week, she was great. This week, she comes out here and she knows she's a star.
Yes.
She's fucking smiling. She's not selling anything.
No. She got in Scott's face.
Oh, my God. I've never seen something go so off the rails so fast.
It was 1 week.
1 week?
the inflation rate of her head.
Oh.
So.
It's mostly in her wig.
I guess so. So first, Scott says, if you're soft, you should take the NWO shirt off. And they go back and forth. And then Mama gets in Scott's face, and Scott says, where is this here? Says she's an old bag. Marcus needs to get her out of the ring right now or he'll put her on the mat. Bagwell instead punches him, but Steiner hits a low blow and drops his bad neck across the ropes, threatens to beat up the whole Bagwell family, challenges the entire city of Chicago, and that's where it leaves. And remember I started talking, I remembered the Rock Undertaker spot vividly. I have zero memory of Buff Bagwell coming back, teasing a babyface turn, being a heel, and then actually doing a babyface turn. I have no idea where this goes next.
Well, it's possible that he doesn't turn.
But he already has.
I don't know. I didn't remember this either.
This sucks.
It's hideous.
Can we all agree that it sucks?
Absolutely atrocious television.
She's the worst. She's got heat with me.
I'm sure she's brokenhearted.
She's someone's mother, Craig.
I understand that.
Buffs.
Well, she must be proud of her boy doing porn.
Well, there's more. Juventud Guerrera versus Prince Iaukea. Before they can start, Disco comes out and says nobody wants to see this match. They want to see me dance.
They were right. Disco was right here.
Well, he did start to dance, and Iaukea knocked him off the apron, and everyone booed. So the match starts, and Kidman's out there with a chair stalking Disco, and this goes on for a while. So no one cares about it. If anyone had cared about the match, they're not going to now. So they leave, and then a minute later, Disco's back in the aisle, but he's like trying to stay off camera, but the announcers are calling attention to him. This is also stupid. Hoovy goes up top. Disco pushes him off. Iaukea hits Disco. Hoovy hits the Hoovy driver for the win. Kidman and Disco are brawling again. This segment sucked.
You know what this segment did? It sucked.
It did.
And you know what else sucked? The next segment.
It did. We were
okay, am I imagining things, or was Hall a drunk for like a full month? And then, like 2 weeks ago, it was suddenly revealed that he'd either cleaned up or he was never drunk in the first place. It was like a work.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Fucking guy comes out this week. Well, first...
Well, he was drunk. It wasn't last week the bar? The pub crawl? So he's drunk then, too.
I guess he was drunk then. Yeah, so what happened 2 weeks ago where he was sober?
They changed their minds.
Well, he comes out here and he's drunk.
Heck of a bender.
And here's what happens. I just got to recap this.
He came out with a drink, by the way, just to make sure we all knew he was drunk.
Nash comes out and says... I'm gonna get you out here, Hall, by saying your favorite 2 words, last call, or whatever. Hall comes out drinking, gives Nash a crotch chop. Nash proceeds to start running.
Kinda.
Nash runs up the ramp, and the cameras follow him backstage. Now, keep in mind, the distance between Hall and Nash was the ramp.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that far.
No.
Right? Nash starts running up the ramp. He goes backstage. He's running around in the back. It's so bad. Screaming for Drunk Boy. So he's calling him. Where are you, Drunk Boy? The announcers claim that they have never seen Kevin Nash so mad. He keeps trying to run. It's so sad. Every now and then he just stops, walks a few feet
for miles,
and starts running again.
Kevin Nash played college basketball, and I promise you he never ran as much in a game as he did in the segment.
No. So keep in mind, Hall was a ramp away from the guy. Nash runs through the curtain. Now Hall has vanished. He has completely disappeared. The announcers on the show have just completely given up, by the way. It gets better later, but Nash is just running and there's no one there. And Tony Schiavone says, Hall may have jumped into a trash can or something.
Yeah.
Like a fucking trash can?
Well, that's where drunks hang out.
So he keeps running.
Oh, God.
And Nash has been running the whole time.
Sure.
Minutes.
And he finally runs into the backstage area, and all the way, literally all the way up on the way out, you see a limo.
Yes.
And Hall sticks his head out.
I guess.
And I'm like,
some guy.
This fucking guy must have run 50 miles an hour through the backstage area to get in that thing. The limo starts to leave, and suddenly Nash is following him in a Cadillac.
Well,
instantly.
I'm like, did I get abducted by aliens? Is this lost time?
Let's recap. To be fair, Nash disappeared because last time we saw him, he was walking.
Well, he had to.
He was done. He was walking. He walks off camera, and 5 seconds later, there's a Cadillac 50 yards away, and we are told Nash is in it.
Dude. And then the best part is Mike Tenay he so badly wants to follow them, and Schiavone just will not allow it.
There's that. My favorite part.
I was so furious after last week that they did not allow Mike Tenay to follow them in his car. Damn it.
My favorite part, besides that Kevin Nash can apparently teleport like Katrina when he wants to.
Both of them.
and Hall, yeah. So, okay. We are to believe that Kevin Nash is so angry at Scott Hall that he's going to attempt a vehicular pursuit.
Yeah.
Okay. The limo's on the ramp. Oh. A head that we are told is Scott Hall's is hanging at the end. Here comes this Cadillac. It comes up to the limo, and the limo don't go nowhere. So whoever's driving the caddy has to swerve to the right and then swerve to the left.
But there's a car on the ramp.
There's a parked car on the one side. So he can't actually, because what are you going to do if you catch him anyway, genius? And I found out the answer is nothing.
Yeah, we did find that out because we never found out what happened in this chase.
Well, he caught him. He caught him right here, but he didn't know what to do.
Well, I mean, but later. They just zoomed off. They may still be driving around.
But what if he catches him? What's he going to do? The same thing.
He's gonna punch him.
No, he could punch him here. He had ample opportunity to get out of this car and start punching.
Nash would have got out of the car and the
it was
limo would have
no, Vinny. It was a trap. If he would have got out of the car, the limo would have zoomed off.
Right.
He knew it.
Well, also happened here eventually. So what's his plan? What's he going to stop him from?
I fucking have no idea.
This sucked. Everyone.
Maybe he was going to get a knife again.
We needed
last
Mike
week.
Tenay on the case.
Slice
in
those
his
tires.
Tercel.
This was bad.
Where are we?
But it was hilarious.
Jericho and
Jericho and Raven.
So remember earlier, Fit Finley and Alex Wright had a fantastic 2-minute match. Mm-hmm. Chris Jericho and Raven had a great 3-minute match. I went back and checked because sometimes it seems shorter than it is. This was actually 3 minutes, and it was a great 3 minutes. The best part is when it's Raven's rules, so no DQ. So Jericho goes to grab a chair, but it's caught up in cables, and so he shakes it and yanks in the cables, and shakes it and yanks in the cables, and he gives up and throws away the ring announcer and grabs that chair instead. So they're.
But the second chair was also wrapped in the cable.
Oh, not as well apparently because he got it in the ring. So Raven tries the DDT. Jericho turns it into the Boston Crab, gets a submission win. And I was thinking, why didn't they get more time? Oh, if I only knew.
Well, I should mention, by the way, that they have a 3-minute match, and Raven goes for the DDT. Jericho sweeps his legs and just submits the guy. The guy just taps out. Mm-hmm. And, Jericho's the champion, the TV champion or whatever he is now. And, Jericho's been the Cruiserweight champion multiple times, the TV champion. I know they always talk about how Jericho was underutilized in WCW. And to be fair, he was never a main event guy. Never was a main event guy. But seriously, is there a more pushed undercard guy in the history of WCW than Chris Jericho? Name one. This guy was like a champion for 2 years straight.
Yeah.
He beat everybody. He was like the top guy that wasn't a top guy.
Yes, he was the top of the bottom guy.
Yeah, there were plenty of guys that things way the hell worse than he did here.
That's true.
And where's his security guards? That they introduced him at the pay-per-view.
Goldberg killed him.
Yeah, the Goldberg angle got turfed. So there's no need for that. I think Ralphus does come back.
Ralphus does come back.
They do come back. One of them comes back.
I mean, Goldberg killed him last week. They're still in recovery.
Oh, yeah, he literally killed them. That's right. Well, it's time. But for what turned out to be not even the worst segment in the show.
Not even close.
Mean Gene brings out Rick Steiner for a promo. Before Rick can finish one sentence, Chucky the doll appears on the big screen doing the evil cackle. And it's finally revealed who's been cackling for months. So Chucky, obviously this is a pre-taped promo.
Yes.
And
very much so.
Gene and Rick trying to time their dialogue with the delivery of the doll was such a complete fail. So Chucky's making fun of Rick. He's insulting Gene. Rick challenges the puppet to come out and fight him.
All you need to know about this, everybody, is as stupid as this sounds, whoever played the doll did such a good job.
Oh, it was Chucky.
And buried both Gene and Rick so thoroughly that it actually got over with the fans.
Kinda.
The fans cheered the doll. They booed the doll one time.
When he plugged his movie and they realized this whole thing has been for a movie plug,
when he plugged the movie, they booed. But then he got it back onto wrestling. He goes, Rick, do not mess with Scott because he's going to be the lead in my next movie. Mm-hmm. And he's going to kick your ass at the pay-per-view. This was not a disaster. This doll was a better promo than... I said the whole WWE roster. That's not fair. But probably 3/4.
I mean, this was, I forget his name now, but there's the actor who has played Chucky, and they've made a dozen movies, and as stupid and silly as the vast majority of them are, it's because they're kind of fun, and he's a good performer. So yeah. That said, I was watching a grown man pick a fight with a doll, and I was watching this in the bedroom as Bridget was baking in the kitchen, and every time Bridget bakes something, she brings me a sample to make sure it's good, and I was so terrified she would walk into the middle of this and I'd have to explain what I was watching. Yes. This was cringeworthy. Speaking of cringeworthy things...
Brad Dourif.
Yes. That's his name.
Chucky.
He's done some other stuff too, but he's best known for Chucky. Speaking of cringeworthy things, DDP plugged a segment on QVC. Selling not jewelry, he said. Did you notice, by the way, that when he... The big tease at the end was that he grabbed the guy and pretended to give him a diamond cutter, but he actually did have the guy in a cravat. He could have sunk this in. They go to break, and here is where the show really... this has been a terrible show anyway, and here's where it nosedived to levels unseen.
Talking about the Bischoff segment?
Yes.
I enjoyed this.
It's everything that went in with it. They go to break, they come back, the crowd is still booing Chucky. The announcers talk for a while. They go to another commercial. And then they come back. Now Bischoff comes out for a promo. He calls out Dillinger and says, let's go to that luxury box. So Dillinger comes out. They walk through the crowd. I guess their plan was climb up the wall and get into the luxury box. But they just disappear. So now we have to go to the announcers again. The announcers are up there just killing time. Minutes go by. Finally, we see Bischoff and Dillinger stepping out of an elevator. That's the hallway, Bobby Heenan explains. Security will not let Bischoff into the suite. The building owner guy comes out. They yell at each other for a while.
Bruce MacArthur.
I hated both of them.
The best promo on this show.
Yeah, exactly.
So Bischoff shoves him. Security swarms Bischoff.
Swarms.
For 3 minutes, all we see is guys in blue shirts on top of what is allegedly Eric Bischoff.
That's right.
Nothing is happening. The announcers are trying to talk about how great it is. Bobby Heenan, there's 10 seconds of silence, and Bobby says, is this great TV or what? Flair emerges so somebody entertaining can be on camera.
Mm-hmm. You gotta remember that in storyline, the announcers hate Eric Bischoff. Mm-hmm. And in real life, I'm pretty sure they hated Eric Bischoff.
True, yes.
They were over the moon.
Mm-hmm.
as Eric Bischoff is getting arrested and dragged literally throughout the bowels of the building.
They drag him,
hogtied.
They hogtie him, and they are carrying him and carrying him. They may have done more walking here than Kevin Nash did earlier running.
It's very possible.
And this whole time, I'm just thinking, Chris Jericho and Raven got 3 minutes. And they walk, and they walk, and they walk, and they go into an elevator, and the doors close. They don't open right back up again. So they go back to the announcers.
That was a classic WCW moment.
Way too many people in the elevator.
The elevator doors close, and that's the cue to cut away, but they don't cut away fast enough. Goddamn doors open again.
Yep.
Announcers are howling.
So they cut to the Horsemen who are partying in the booth, Ric Flair's being the most Ric Flair you ever saw. And I don't know... I don't know what this the building owner's personal life was like, but one of the beautiful women who was there just grabbed him and passionately kissed him right in the mouth. Right there on TV. So I hope they were close.
Well, they were close.
They were very close here. So they go back to the announcers, who at this point just have no idea what to do. They begin to make jokes about jail.
Flair and MacArthur are out there celebrating, and Heenan says, "Man, looks like he's running for office." And there's a pause, and then he says, "He'll be impeached." And
Tony died.
Tony, he just absolutely died. Like, you don't see the announcers when he says he'll be impeached. You just hear Heenan say it, and then there's a long silence. And they finally cut back to the announcers, and Tony has recovered enough to begin speaking, but then he just completely loses it. He buries his head in his hands. He points at Bobby. They were having so much fun.
We then cut downstairs where Eric Bischoff and security are walking around. They walk in one direction. They turn around. They walk in the other direction. They go back to the announcers. They fill more time. We go back downstairs where Eric Bischoff is placed into a cop car. The cop car begins to drive away. The tires squeal as they pull out of the parking lot. Apparently they were going after Nash and Hall too. And finally it goes to commercial. This segment lasted 13 minutes.
They also showed
seems a little excessive.
They also showed a wide shot of the box, the suite from the crowd, and Flair. It's like he's in the crowd, but the crowd is below him, and he's just strutting back and forth. And it reminded me of the two judges on the Muppets,
Statler and Waldorf.
Yes,
yeah.
He's just entertaining himself, and people are going nuts, and the owner gets up there, and it was a sight to behold.
Flair was having fun. I can verify.
Oh
that.
yeah, I'm sure there was actually alcohol in the suite.
Yes,
I would imagine.
There's no doubt in my mind. So yeah, 13 minutes devoted to Eric Bischoff going to the suite, failing to get them ejected, and getting arrested instead. Goldberg versus Giant.
Allow me. First off, the crowd is molten for this match.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable heat, unlike anything else on this show. So very quickly, Giant gets body slammed by Goldberg. Stevie Ray runs in and hits him with a chair. For some reason, they note this is a no DQ match.
They did actually note it earlier as well.
All right. I don't know why. DDP hits the ring. He goes after Stevie. Giant hits the chokeslam on Goldberg. He goes for the cover. DDP makes the save. The story here is, would Giant have beaten Goldberg had it not been for DDP?
DDP not only made the save, he dropped an elbow and in process dropped his whole body on top of the Giant.
So Giant goes to chokeslam Page. Goldberg spears him. Giant leaves. Giant gets counted out. Now listen to me. This was number 150. Now, granted, these numbers are fake, but like they made a deal that this is the 150th win of Goldberg. They didn't give the guy a clean win over the Giant. This fucking guy is on his way to WWF. Let me repeat this. The Giant is on his way to the WWF, and they gave him a visual pinfall over fucking Goldberg. WWE should have paid them like $1 million to let this happen before they got the Giant. These fucking idiots did it for free. Because they're fucking idiots.
Yeah,
Nobody has gotten a visual pinfall over Goldberg. Wait, DDP. They had that one thing, right? Where DDP like did something or something weird happened.
He may have hit a cutter and
but still, that was to set up a pay-per-view with DDP who's staying.
Yeah. Staying.
These numbskulls, like Giant leaving is like not a mystery. And they I just couldn't even believe it. This was the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Well, on top of all that, and you're not wrong about anything, but if you did not know Giant was leaving, you would have watched him here and thought, this guy won't be around long. He's getting fat. He's got a new singlet. It doesn't fit very well. He's half-assing his way through this entire match. He went up for the body slam, and that was it. He looked terrible. And then they do all the bullshit, and there's this sleeving. I did a lot of shit. I don't know.
It sucked.
How many times have we talked about cosmic coincidences on this?
Many times.
Amazing. How amazing is it that here we are in the second week of October in 2017, and we watch an old Nitro, and it's the reunion of the Blade Runners. Their movie's out.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
So it's Hogan and Hart versus Warrior and Sting, or, as Michael Buffer called it, the greatest main event feature, a tag team match, the greatest tag team match in the history of WCW Monday Nitro on TNT. Which turned out to be wrong, by the way.
Well, you know what? Let's be fair. I mean, if you didn't know how much this sucked, and if you didn't know it was Nitro, this was the Ultimate Warrior and Sting versus Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart.
That is also a Hall of Fame.
On paper, that should be like the biggest match in the history of Nitro.
Just like the tag team match on Raw.
Yes, it sounds like a Mania main event. Buffer then describes Hogan and Sting as, or Warrior and Sting as, two men who are now united here on WCW Monday Nitro in a combination of action, power, speed, experience, and guile that has never been witnessed before. And here's where it occurred to me.
Thank God you wrote all this down.
Here's where it occurred to me. You know who's probably a huge Michael Buffer fan? Matt Stryker.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So they stalled forever. And, of course, Sting did all the wrestling.
Warrior didn't even take off his ring jacket.
Warrior has he's out there on the apron.
He's got his bicep all. He's got a torn bicep.
He's in this coat that looks like it weighs about 80 pounds. He's just waiting for this hot tag. He distracts the ref about 8 times. So, finally, he gets a hot tag. He makes a comeback in his coat.
Okay, hold on. The moment he got the hot tag, the place went nuts. It was 2 moves before they turned on him.
Yeah.
He hit the ropes. He did the most horrendous clothesline. He hit the ropes. He did another horrendous clothesline. He hit the ropes and did a third horrendous clothesline. That was his entire output in this match.
Yep. So the black and white hits the ring for the DQ. The ring begins to fill with smoke, but the NWO have a plan. They will stop Warrior from disappearing by throwing him out of the ring so he can't disappear in the smoke. So Warrior's on the floor. They're all like pointing and laughing at him. Ha ha ha, we outsmarted the Ultimate Warrior. And the smoke clears, and now Sting has a baseball bat. And he runs wild, and he chases them off. Warrior somehow in the melee gets a hold of Hogan's weight belt, and he is chasing them up the aisle. If there was any doubt that Giant had checked out, it was gone the way he sold this weight belt. Like, doing high knees in place and waving his arms back and forth and screaming. He didn't give a fuck.
This sucked.
That was the end.
God, this sucked. The show's so bad.
So it was very, very
so bad. It's really feeling like the tide's turning here in this Raw Nitro war. Raw's been good for like 2 weeks. That's pretty good. Nitro's been horrible for 15 weeks in a row.
So then, Nitro, number 162, also October 19th, 1998. They recapped all the nonsense with the Horsemen last week. Thankfully, it only took about 5 minutes. Saturn versus Chaos. Saturn was super over. Chaos goes to do... Austin called it the stun gun when it was his finisher, but you lift a guy up, he just drop his neck on the ropes. Chaos goes to do this move and just misses the ropes entirely and just dumps Saturn out of the ring. And thankfully, Saturn was alert and broke his fall in the apron, but he could have died. Yeah. So... they keep going for a while. Everyone's cheering for Saturn. Makes his comeback. It's a super kick, belly to belly suplex, Falcon Arrow, and the DVD for the win. Turned into a fun opener.
So they always say that the 2 most important matches are the opener and the main event. But what they do not mention is that the 2 most fun matches are also the opener and the main event. I worked way more openers than I did main events.
Sure.
But you know what's great about the opener? You can fucking do anything, and the place goes nuts. Because they just got there, and they haven't seen nothing yet. These guys go out there. It's Saturn versus Chaos.
Yeah.
And like 5 seconds into the match, Saturn hits like a neck breaker. The place goes nuts. This man took a bump.
That man did something. The other guy fell down.
He hits him with a forearm. Dude takes a bump. The place goes nuts. They were so into every move in this stupid match. Now, granted, by the end of 3 hours, they were tired. But man, what a match this must have been.
We go from that to Mike Tenay talking to fans.
Oh my God. He's talking to this fan, and I'm like, that fan looks exactly like Daivari. It was!
It was?
It was Daivari!
The, which one? The one
Sean Daivari.
So...
The older one.
The older one, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, how about that then?
I know. I just looked at him and I'm like, that guy looks fucking exactly like a young Daivari. I'm trying to do the math in my head.
Yeah?
And I looked it up and it was him.
There you go then. Now that being said, I didn't know it was Daivari. All I knew is that Shivani says Mike Tenay is the only man who can do this job or would want to.
Tony was in rare form on this show.
So Tenay talks to fans. Then we get Nitro Party clips. I don't know what was going on at this party, but the thing they showed more than anything else was the hot dogs.
Oh man, I was so hungry.
I'm hungry now.
It's SmackDown. So I go to get some food, and I was going to get a chicken. There's no good food there. You have no good choices. So I was going to get a chicken strip basket and a hot dog. And the guy goes, going to be a 10-minute wait for hot dogs.
Oh my God.
I'm like, 10 minutes to make a fucking hot dog? Which, by the way, listen, as God is my witness, this is a true story, okay? On Thursday, what was I ranting about on this show?
I won't lie to you, I've forgotten.
Panera.
Okay.
Remember I went to Panera 2 weeks in a row, they had no bread.
Right.
Okay. There's a Whale Scout helping out event Saturday. We've got to take an early morning ferry. I don't have time to make breakfast because I'll just die if I have to get up any earlier. So I get up and we just get right in the car and we start driving and I'm just going to eat something on the ferry. There's got to be something to eat on the ferry.
Usually is.
I swear to God, I get on this fucking boat and they've got that hot food area.
Yeah.
Like in a convenience store where everything's in foil.
Sure.
There's nothing but tater tots. And on the thing, it says hamburger, chicken burger, hot dog, all of these different food items. But there's nothing there. I go up to the front counter, I say, hey, are there any hamburgers, hot dogs, sausage breakfast sandwich, whatever? Is there anything that's going to be coming out of the oven soon? As I swear to fucking God, she goes, we ran out of bread, so we're not going to be cooking anything today.
What? Well, that makes no sense.
I had an ice cream sandwich for breakfast. Do you know how this fucked up my day?
How did it fuck up your day?
Monumentally. How is this now 3 times that I've tried to eat somewhere and they've been out of bread?
I don't know.
In a 2-week period.
I don't know what to tell you.
Is there a bread shortage? I'm going to Google it right now. You continue. I'm going to check.
Okay, so we had Tenay and the fans.
Venezuela.
Try that again.
It's trying to use a,
Venezuela?
accent. Venezuela has a bread shortage. The government has decided bakers are the problem. No shit. So that's the only one I can find so far is Venezuela. What about America? Why is there no bread around here? Bread shortage, America. Nothing comes up. How about Seattle area? God damn it. Motherfucker. I'm so pissed. If they would have told me today there's a 10-minute wait on hot dogs because someone's going out to get bread, I do not even know what I would have done. All right, let's continue.
Hey, Steiner versus Steiner video package. And after last week's show, the first hour of Nitro is all video packages. I skipped them now. So this happened. They recapped Chucky, Goldberg Page hype video, then some wrestling, some lucha in fact, La Parca and Ciclope and Chavo Guerrero Jr. and Lizmark Jr. versus Psychosis and Hector Garza and El Dandy and Damien. The latter group, for those of you not keeping score, has already joined the LWO. So there's lots of cool wrestling here. There's 8 dudes hitting dives everywhere. The camera can't keep up. And the Parker starts using a chair. Psychosis pins Ciclope with a top rope leg drop. Only when all of this is done do I realize, and only then because the announcers pointed out, La Parca had wiped out his own partner, Ciclope, with a chair leading to the pin. So Eddie comes out to celebrate with his crew, says the stronger than ever now. We know La Parca deserves to join. Passes Parca a t-shirt. Parca is happy. The crowd is not. They were chanting USA.
You know, if Eddie would have just wrestled in these matches, it probably would have gone quite far in getting over the LWO. Instead, they're just out there doing the same damn matches, but wearing a t-shirt now. Mm-hmm. And then Eddie comes out for a bad promo afterwards.
Yes.
This ain't working, this LWO.
And a Bret Hart Sting video package. Canyon versus Scott Putski.
Okay, listen to me. Canyon was a friend of mine. God rest his soul. His matches are not holding up.
No.
Now, to be fair, in 1998, it probably was pretty fun to watch a guy just do a whole bunch of moves.
He sure does.
But you know what? In 2017, I've seen 20 more years of guys just doing moves. And now this guy just doing some moves ain't doing it for me.
Canyon did 87 finishers in this match. Canyon was the guy who breaks out the wrestling video game and just does the high power moves for 10 minutes. Finish after finish after finish after finish after finish. And then it says, all right, brother, punch me. And they start selling for punches. This did more damage than the face buster off the steps onto the apron, I guess. Canyon finally won with a flatliner. God rest his soul, this did suck.
Small nugget of wisdom for all the wrestlers out there listening to this right now. Moves, like just doing a bunch of moves, it doesn't hold up. But psychology holds up over 20 years.
And the Hogan Warrior video package. Scott Steiner comes out for a promo.
Man, this guy's promos have improved dramatically.
That is true.
In the last 3 months.
That is true.
Like night and day. Do you remember when he first was Hollywood Scott Steiner with Hogan?
Superstar Scott Steiner.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
He was so nervous.
Shy.
And he was shy. And
Scott Steiner, shy.
Yeah. And it's amazing because you watch and you're like, God, I just remember him being so awesome on these crazy Scott Steiner Big Papa Pump promos. Like, when does he figure it out? Well, the answer was, didn't take long.
No.
This guy is overflowing with confidence now. He's totally figured it out.
Starts running down Buff Bagwell and Mama Bagwell, says she's a tramp. He called out any of the Minnesota Vikings to come fight him. Before any could answer, Rick Steiner appears on stage. He says he shouldn't pick on the Vikings. They're undefeated, and Scott's not doing anything to nobody. He challenges Scott to fight, but Scott bails.
Dude, let's not brush over this.
I'm looking at this. How long did this go?
This was the best of Rick Steiner. He was so awesome. He puts over the Vikings. He puts over Minnesota. And he says, Scott, you're nothing but little Scotty Steiner to me right now. Challenges him to a fight. They go back and forth.
That's right.
Steiner teases getting in the ring. He finally gets in with his brother.
Scott does.
Yep. Scott says, I want this to be a fair fight. And Rick just says, hell no, and punches him and beats his ass.
It was like such an awesome beating he laid on his brother.
Like, I'm not doing this justice. I watched this a while ago. But I'm telling you right now, Rick Steiner is not as big and he is not as jacked as his brother.
No.
But he was so good here that when it was over, you thought, you know what? If there's one guy that could beat Scott Steiner's ass, it's his big brother Rick. He's a big, scary guy. And worse, he's like a big, scary, kind of dumb guy that just doesn't give a shit. The most dangerous kind.
I will add another detail. He's a big, scary guy who doesn't give a shit, but he is trained.
Yeah.
He can take your ass down whenever he wants.
He may not be physically quite as big, but he's the big brother.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the moment specifically you are underselling is when Scott says, is this going to be a fair fight?
Yeah, the heel Scott Steiner.
Is this going to be a fair fight? And Rick just says, no, punch.
It was so fucking
The timing
great.
was so awesome.
This was so great.
Scott came up bleeding from the side of the head, I assume from the microphone shot. So Scott grabs a chair, or Scott hits a pair of low blows. Then he hits Rick in the ass with a chair. They try to claim it was the knee, but I know what I saw. Then Buff runs out. He is still wearing an NWO shirt, but he chases away the NWO member Scott Steiner. Actually, first Scott passes in the chair, says, hit Rick, but Buff swings at Scott, then Scott bails, and everyone cheers for Buff. And they go to commercial, and like an hour later, they say, oh, by the way, here's what happened in that commercial break, and it was Buff tearing off his NWO shirt. I have no idea. First of all, zero memory of this. Like, this is alternate universe Nitro now. Moreover, I don't know where it's going, and it's all just so weird. This second wave Buff babyface story.
The only thing I can figure is they're going to do the match at the pay-per-view, and Buff is going to screw Rick and be back with Scott.
This would explain why I'd forgotten it.
Yes.
But it's so weird.
All I know is this was the best thing on the show.
The Nitro Girls made like an 8th appearance, and then they had a video package, and we're still in the first hour. So they're plugging UNICEF, which I don't know if it's still a thing or not, honestly, but they used to collect money and give it to needy people all over the world. So Goldberg is signing autographs, and there's like a dozen kids around him, and they're all chanting his name in the most wooden manner possible. Goldberg, Goldberg. And then they all say, trick or treat for UNICEF. And Goldberg looks at the camera and gives a big thumbs up. That was awesome. Fit Finlay versus the British Bulldog. First of all, I know Bulldog was probably, his back was killing him probably by this point. But he was having a lot of trouble keeping up with Finlay. It's not like he's a clumsy guy.
You know what's funny is he hurt his back and got that bad infection falling on the trap door. Mm-hmm. Tom and I have been watching all of the Royal Rumbles. We just watched Royal Rumble 2000. Bulldogs are just in there wrestling.
That's true.
Like, what? Another weird thing.
It is very weird. So Alex Wright comes out, hits Davey with a drop kick.
In my memory, like, this period is the beginning and the end of Bulldog's career. But it's not.
Well, it is.
Well, it is, but I mean, he just...
It dies a very slow death.
He does keep going.
The career does. That was a poor choice of words. So, Finlay hits Bulldog with the laziest tombstone of all time. A tombstone is supposed to be a head-dropping move, and he picks him up and just slams him down on his back.
Well, I think he got him up and realized, God damn, his head's low. I ain't saving this one.
Maybe that was it. Yeah. So Finlay wins. Then he attacks Alex. So the whole thing is they're having a feud over who is the best wrestler from all of Europe. At this point, Larry Zbyszko, who has wrestled all over the world.
Too bad they don't have a European title. That'd solve that problem.
Wouldn't it, though? Larry asks, is Ireland part of Europe? And the tone of his voice, I don't think he was making a joke or playing a role. I think he honestly didn't know. The answer is yes, in case any of you or Larry are listening.
But is it part of the UK?
Ireland is not. Although Finlay's from Belfast, which is.
Well, look at that.
Uh-huh.
No wonder Larry was confused.
Well, they're both in Europe.
That's true.
Me and Gene interviewed Chris Jericho, who had a huge babyface reaction, which is funny. Ralphus is back.
God, this thing. Jericho is still trying to get his match with Greenberg. Mm-hmm. He's running down DDP. Page comes out and he says, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but something like, what's up, Jerkico?
He called him Jerkico.
So he calls him Jerkico. And like the moment it comes out of his mouth, you could tell he just realized, I'm so fucking embarrassed. Because he paused and he goes, that one was right out of your playbook, Jericho.
You know what's funny about this? This is one of the things I do remember crystal clear 19 years later. You and I watched it. We had the same reaction. That was a terrible line. And then the next day, or whenever you went to your next gymnastics class to coach the kids, all the kids were talking about it. It was the coolest thing they ever saw.
Really?
He called him Jerkico.
I couldn't believe that happened. My other favorite part is he booted Ralphus right in the gut and says, get away from me. Ralphus was not a security guard. He was a fat guy that worked there.
He was nothing.
He was like a truck driver or something. I can't even remember. And here's DDP just boomed this guy in the guts.
So anyway, yes, Gene said they would have a match later. I guess Gene can book matches.
Yeah, DDP wants a match, and Jericho's not interested in. Gene signed the match anyway. And then he goes, hey, Ralphus, get yourself some teeth. Like, what a dick.
A total dick. So they're at the Target Center in Minneapolis, which is a big, fancy arena. And it has several bars there, and in one of them is Scott Hall, in his gear, drinking beer with all the fans.
What's so funny about it is, it's a little bit later on, but Hall's in this bar, and the announcers have to talk about how sad it is. But the segment is Hall sitting there, and he's just surrounded by women who are just fawning all over him. I'm like, okay, he could be at Nitro.
He could be in the ring
wrestling,
beat up.
But he's here being fun. It's just like, this is not the worst day for Scott Hall right here.
No, that's for sure. Wrath versus Tokyo Magnum. We are to the point now where from the moment he steps out, Wrath is getting megastar reactions. Everyone's totally into him. He went for like a minute and went with a meltdown, and everyone loved him.
Let's talk about the most important thing. Forget all this. Wrath versus Meng has been signed for Halloween Havoc on Sunday.
That's going to happen.
Oh my God. Oh, it's going to be, could be glorious. Could be.
Here was the point where they finally showed Buff tearing off his NWO shirt earlier. The Dancing Dildos were supposed to wrestle Super Kalo and Silver King, but then Kalo and King come out and they just point to the back, and out comes Arn Anderson, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko. And the Luchadors have apparently just yielded their match to these two. Bischoff comes out, hits the announce desk, says the Horsemen, Kalo, and Silver King are all working for free tonight. They have all breached their contracts. He's got a point. These are not the men Alex and Disco had signed to wrestle. So the Horsemen squashed them. Benoit tapped out Disco with a crossface, and that was that.
This was his first Benoit match on Nitro in months.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. He had a lot of pent-up aggression.
He did.
That he took out on Disco Inferno.
Also did.
Blew snot all over him, I think, for the first time. It was something else.
I just can't believe they have the balls to do a wrestlers versus management storyline while their rivals at the exact same time are doing Austin McMahon.
Yep. Well, to be fair, the Bischoff Flair management storyline is totally built on real life.
It was.
And real life happens.
I guess so. Here, Paul was at the bar entertaining some ladies. Just his harem.
Yeah, he's having a great time. The announcers are all sad for him.
Yes.
I'm like, trust me. Trust me. It is not better to be on WCW Monday Nitro.
Jericho and DDP, a fun little TV match.
Listen, this was a good match, but they did the same fucking thing again.
Oh, yeah.
DDP is about to get a title shot versus Goldberg, and they couldn't even have him just beat Chris Jericho here. Goldberg gets the ring, spears Jericho for a DQ, goes to jackhammer him, DDP cuts him off, it's a diamond cutter, Geeks run in and break it up. Like, I like DDP, but everybody is a weak challenger going up against Goldberg. Everybody. There's nobody who you can put against Goldberg right now who is not a weak challenger. They need to go in there and win a bunch of matches for you to believe they have any chance of beating Goldberg. Week after week, DDP goes in there and goes to DQs and shit with guys. And he can't beat Canyon. He can't beat Jericho. At least with Jericho, they're also playing up that maybe Jericho's going to face Goldberg. But still, he's not facing him. So either don't put this match together, or DDP should win. Period.
Well, what happened instead? Page makes his comeback. He signals for the Diamond Cutter. But before he can hit it, Goldberg hits the ring and spears Jericho for the DQ. Then Goldberg goes to jackhammer Jericho. Page breaks it up, hits Jericho with a cutter, and then Goldberg and Page had a shoving match. Officials came out to separate them, and then it was to the break. Yeah, there was a lot wrong with this. Scott Hall still having a party. Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Kidman.
Oh.
I saw your tweet about this.
Oh.
We are on similar wavelengths.
Dude. First off, Rey's back. They announced it's been a tough year. He's had multiple knee surgeries. He's 100%, they claim. He's out there with a fucking bionic leg. He's got the biggest knee brace you've ever seen in your life. This goes on and on and on.
Let me tell you something.
The fans are chanting, Green Bay sucks.
Yeah. I could look down on the network. You can see a little dot for when the match starts and a little dot for when the match ends. So I knew this was going to go a while.
I didn't have those dots.
So I knew from the get-go they were going to go a while. And they start doing some mat wrestling. I said, these guys are going to start slow. They got a lot of time to work up. They're going to build to a big finish, and it's going to be awesome. And I kept waiting, and I kept waiting, and I kept waiting. And the next thing you know, the bell rings, and it's a time limit draw. And they never got out of first gear. This is so shockingly bad.
I'll tell you what I experienced. I didn't know it was going to go a long time. I'm just watching this match, and it's okay. And then Ray makes his comeback, and they're trading near falls. And I'm thinking, this is pretty good. And then Kidman grabs a chin lock in the middle of Ray's comeback. I was like, what? And then he gets the heat again.
Yep.
And they keep going. Fans are chanting, Green Bay sucks. They're so bored. They're turning on the match. Mm-hmm. They claimed it was what's the time limit? 10 minutes? There's no way this was 10 minutes. It felt like 30. Minimum 15. Went on forever. And when it was over, it was like, it wasn't bad, but it was the worst good match I'd seen all year. That's the only way I can describe it.
Oh, that's pretty...
I've seen bad matches. This was not a bad match, but it was the worst good match I've seen in forever.
They go and they go and they go, and the bell just rings. And the crowd, which had been quiet and bored and asleep and chanting for sports ball teams, just go, boo! They were so pissed. They had to sit through this whole thing and didn't even get a finish. It was just a time limit draw. What a complete failure this was. Gene brings out the mayor of Milwaukee.
Oh, man, I got to talk about this. So, Gene, as Vinny noted, brings out the mayor. I had just watched the longest fucking match in the world. And the next segment is Gene bringing out the mayor. And the very first thing I thought is, what is on Raw right now? Who isn't turning the channel right now? Now, if I had a clicker, I would have turned the channel before I found out that, in fact, she called out Ric Flair. She announces it's Ric Flair Day in Minneapolis. Bischoff comes out. He's storming down the aisle, and the camera is showing him walk down the aisle, and it's about to cut away back to the ring again, but right before it cuts away, he is obliterated with a drink. Just drenched. They cut back to the ring, and without even skipping a beat, Gene says, talk about throwing a wet blanket on the fire. And Tony adds deadpan, literally. Everybody hated Bischoff. He gets in the ring. He's going after the mayor about how Flair's not supposed to be there. And then, as God is my witness, this mayor cut a better promo than 95% of the Raw roster today. Was she not unbelievably great? She just tore Eric apart. She eviscerated this guy. It was so great. And they arrested him, or they told him to get out of here. He's going to go to jail.
They said he had unpaid warrants.
This segment started out I couldn't even believe it was on TV. And by the time it was over, I was like, this was the second best segment on the show, behind Scott and Rick.
So Bischoff is told he has 20 minutes to vacate the premises. He promises to contact his attorney and return before the end of the show. He storms backstage to find his car is being towed. And as the tow truck driver starts to pull away and drive down the street, Eric gives chase, and 20 seconds go by, and Eric is keep maintaining pace. This tow truck driver is not pulling away. Eric was fast.
Got to give this guy credit. After all of this stuff that happened with Flair, I mean, I said it last week, but the more I watch, this dude's selling. Flair's getting his revenge on Eric Bischoff. Every single week he's humiliating this guy. Now, unfortunately for Eric, like on the other channel, it's much better.
Yes.
But he is doing his best to sell for Ric Flair now. It's not going to end well, but...
All right. The next scheduled match was a 6-man. Scott Hall, Stevie Ray, and Scott Norton versus Conan, Lex Luger, and Kevin Nash. So, Stevie Ray and Norton come out. They don't know where Hall is. They're confused. Finally, he comes out and stumbles his way down there. Then Conan and Lex come out, but they don't have Kevin Nash. They're looking at each other. They look at the ring. They look around. They look at the back. Kevin Nash isn't even out there, and they do the biggest pyro show I've ever seen. There's never been a WrestleMania with a pyro show like this. Just boom, pop, fizz, forever. Just pyro on pyro on pyro on pyro on pyro for no one. They ring the bell to start the match.
Conan, by the way, Nash is gone. Him and Luger look to the back like, fuck, where is this guy? And then Conan just does his usual spiel.
Conan does
happy as can be.
I guess I'll just be bowdy and rowdy. The bell rings to start the match, and then they cut backstage, and we see Nash. And we cut back to the ring where no one's wrestling because they're all just watching the big screen. Nash is carrying a beverage and stumbling about and getting lost and giggling, and he shows up on the ramp, and everyone cheers, and Hall thought it was cool. He wanted to party with them, and they wanted to party with each other, but their partners got them out of the ring so the sober dudes could fight. But then it occurred to me, I am pretty sure I would rather watch Scott Hall and Kevin Nash drunk than Conan and Stevie Ray sober. So they're doing some stuff, and it goes on, and then Hall tags himself in, and then Nash tags himself in, and they both stumble into the ring, and they're laughing, and they're having a grand old time. And then Hall turns his back, and Nash stands straight up. He reveals that his red Solo cup is empty, and then he boots the beer out of Scott's hand and starts tearing him apart. He ping-pongs everybody, falls out of the ring. The ref just waves off the match, just stops, rings the bell. Tony Schiavone says, quote, "I don't know why the bell sounded."
When that bell rang in this match, the fans, they just booed. Like, what? Why is this a DQ? Tony has no idea. I mean, literally, Nash... I'm trying to figure this out. I don't even know who would have won. So was Nash DQ'd for lying about being drunk?
No one was DQ'd. There was no finish. They just rang a bell.
Huh. I guess it was inexplicable.
The only thing I could figure is that the ref decided, or said, this drunk guy here is not going to get up and get back in the ring by a count of 10. I'm going to save everyone 10 seconds and just ring the bell right now.
Well, I mean, it's also possible that when he was getting ping-ponged around, the referee was like, this is 3 men beating on 1. I must call for the bell.
Wow, that's...
I mean, one way or the other.
That never occurred to me.
This was so stupid.
It sure was. It sure was. Hollywood Hogan versus Horace.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
Earlier in the show, Hogan had demanded this. And they gave away the finish in the booking, but they said Hogan had demanded this to show what he would do to a family member, just to show how mean he would be to a warrior. So Hogan begins by interviewing Horace. What's your name? Horace. No. Shoot with this thing. What's your name? Horace Hogan. That was a shoot. So Hogan explains his late brother had been Horace's father. Not sure why he had to mention that like 6 times during this. Hogan says we have the same blood running through our veins. Calls at the NWO. I want all of you to see what Horace means to me. Says I have let you fight your own battles. Over and over again, every time I see you, I see my dead brother. I love you. Says Hogan, I love Horace so much, I give him the shirt off my back. And now I'm going to show you all the sacrifice. And he punches Horace out and starts whipping him with his belt. The other NWO dudes try to reason with him. But he just says, if I do this to someone I love, imagine what I'll do to Warrior. And he grabs a chair and he plasters his nephew right in the head. My God. They start to stretch Horace out. Hogan tips the thing over. And then Warrior comes out with a baseball bat. Hogan flees. Warrior beats up everybody else and looks like shit doing it. Hogan challenges Warrior to put the bat down, but it's a distraction, so Giant can grab Warrior and chokeslam him. And they tagged him with the NWO sign, and they dropped a bunch of legs on him, and finally this ended.
I tapped out. Had to go to SmackDown. I saw Hogan and Horace in there. I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to leave.
205 Live was better than Hogan and Horace.
Yeah.
There's more.
What else did I miss?
Bret Hart comes out to challenge Sting. He says, Hogan's inspired me. I know the fans don't respect me. Well, I got one fan. Smokey, my cat.
Is that his fucking cat?
Is that where Tyson Kidd got it?
Is this the main event?
The main event segment.
Hold on a second. The main event is Bret Hart talking about his cat?
Yeah. So, says the best way to earn respect was to kick the crap out of Sting. Why wait till Sunday? Sting is the stupidest there is, stupidest there was, as stupidest there ever will be.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
We need to do this one of these weeks. I won't watch the show. I'll just hear what happened.
And it'll be 30
It'll be
minutes
like a game. Like, you could pick 3 lies.
I see.
Yeah. But only 3. Because there's so many that could be lies.
Right.
It'll make it even more difficult.
And you have to guess which one is actually not a lie. Yeah.
Already, I think you've lied twice.
No, this all happened.
This is one segment.
So Sting comes out, still growing out a beard, still covering it in face paint, and the match begins. Sting beats Bret up for a while.
Dude, there's a match?
There's a match going on.
Because there was only like 7 minutes left on my thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
There's a match. It's Bret Hart and Sting. And all I could think watching this is, how can this not be a bigger deal than it is?
Well, based on what you just told me, it's because Bret started with a promo about his cat and called him the stupidest there is, the stupidest there was, and the stupidest there ever will be.
Think about 12 months ago. Bret Hart was the world champion in the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah.
Sting was WCW's savior. They were the 2 biggest guys in the 2 biggest companies in the world. 12 months later, they're just men. They're just out there doing stuff. Here's the finish, Brian. Here's the finish you missed. Sting hooks, as I wrote here, the sharpshooter. Bret gets the ropes, and Sting doesn't care. Sting says to the ref, you might as well go get help because I'm not going to let go.
Really?
That's a quote.
Huh.
And so Sting is disqualified for refusing to break the hold.
That sounds goddamn horrible.
Stevie Ray and Vincent come out. Sting beats their ass. As Sting is beating the NWO's ass, garbage is filling the ring. These fans are so outraged. That was what really motivated me to check the finishes on Nitro. And to be fair, they weren't terrible until like the last half. But the finishes on Nitro were. Clean pin. Pin after one guy hit his own partner with a chair. Clean pin. Pin after interference by a German. Clean pin. And then submission after one team replaced each other, or replaced another. Disqualification. Draw. No contest. No match. DQ.
Man, this sounds like an awesome show. What a Monday Nitro.
This is not a good show for wrestling.
What a Monday night.
This is not a good show for logic. You could argue it's not a good show for good taste, considering one show was built around a murder. I guess we'll do Nitro now.
That's a pretty good idea, Vince.
Monday Nitro number 163, also October 26th, 1998.
So here's what happened. Halloween Havoc was the night before, and they decided they were going to go long. There's too much action to fit into 3 hours. And so they planned on going 3 hours and 20 minutes, and
they didn't tell anybody.
I guess whoever was responsible for calling the cable companies didn't. And so about 25% of the cable companies around the U.S. just shut the goddamn show off. Some shut it off a little early, some shut it off a little late, some shut it off right at the top of the hour. But basically, about 25% of the people, so it wasn't like everybody, but a good 25% did not see the end of the Warrior match or the entire Goldberg versus DDP match.
Wow.
So, Vince wakes up, or whoever wakes up, Vince's comb-over lawyers, and they call the cable companies and they claim that WCW did this on purpose as a ratings ploy. That's why Tony came on TV here and he explained this was not a ratings ploy. Everything Tony said was true. We've been trying to figure out all day what to do as a make good. Now, granted, the cable companies, anybody who called the cable company to complain, and there were tons of people that called.
Oh, yeah.
The cable companies either said, we'll give you a full refund, or we'll give you the replay on Tuesday for free. And so actually, it wasn't. Some said a full refund, some said a partial refund, some said $10 or whatever. virtually everybody just took their money. They didn't want to watch the replay for free. So Tony says, we've been trying to figure out what to do. There's all sorts of options. What we've decided was we could give the replay away for free, or we'll just give the match that everybody missed away for free here on this show at 9 p.m. One time only. It'll never happen again. We sincerely apologize to everybody, but we're going to show you the Goldberg DDP match. We won't even make you wait till the end of the show, they said. We'll do it right there at the top of the hour.
They said that proves it's not a ratings ploy.
Yeah. What they should have said to prove it's not a ratings ploy was that they lost like $1.5 million because of this fuck up.
Oh my gosh.
And when you consider that all of this bullshit with the Warrior that we had to put up with, and all of these 9 million video packages for Halloween Havoc was because they paid this fucker $1 million. Mm-hmm. So they're out that $1 million for a -5-star match and another $1 million because they fucked up the timing of the show. So you could tell, I mean, they were upset about this whole thing. So anyway.
I actually thought the speech was going to be a lot wackier, and I put a lot of work into transcribing the entire thing, and frankly, it was not worth it. But I do want to note, at the very, very beginning, he described this as, an instance occurred that was out of the control of World Championship Wrestling.
Oh, yeah?
Well, that's a lie.
That was a lie. I mean, it was out of their control that people shut it off after you didn't tell them. But give me a break.
You were the ones who decided to go 320.
I will say there was one thing, though, when they said, we're not going to show you the end of Hogan Warrior, which a lot of people also didn't get to see. He goes, the only way to see that is to buy the replay.
Well, they explained...
I was like, that's not fair.
I forget what word they used. Oh, disgusting. They said the finish of that match was too disgusting to show on network TV.
Oh, yeah. The whole fucking match was too disgusting.
Remember the finish of that match?
Oh, they didn't. What they showed here, and I remember
there was
won.
Flash paper involved, which Hogan could not light at one point.
And he threw
the imaginary
his hands,
flash paper, and it blew up in his hands.
Where pretended his face was on fire.
Yeah, it was a terrible match. We did not go back and watch it, everybody. We've reviewed it like 2 times in the archive, so go back there and listen to it. I'm pretty sure it's just as bad now.
They opened, by the way, with pics of another match from Halloween Havoc.
Oh, hold on, one other thing. Before they moved on, at the end of this whole thing, okay, they just go into this whole spiel apologizing to the fans for everything that they got screwed up the night before. And they go to Larry, and he just absolutely at random brings up the KY2 bug that's coming.
He did say that.
And you just look at Tenay, and he just shovels up his brow and looks at Larry. Goes, KY?
Yes.
The fuck?
Yes, there's a problem with lubrication in the future.
I see. Now, before all of this, they did show pics of Sting and Bret Hart from Halloween Havoc. There was ref bumps and foreign objects, and Bret hitting Sting with a baseball bat, and Bret won with a sharpshooter.
Yes.
You may update your database.
One other thing before this first match. So when they replayed the Goldberg DDP match, it did in fact draw the highest rating in the history of cable television.
Huh.
They beat Raw. With that said, the opener on the show was Kenny Chaos versus Stevie Ray.
Uh-huh.
They're actively trying to lose.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
They are actively trying to lose this war.
If you had told me this entire show, this opener was put out there to prove that they are not in a ratings ploy.
Really, the first 4 matches of this show.
Well, it was Chaos and Stevie Ray. It went 90 seconds. It was almost as bad as the Tiger Ali match. Buff runs out, throws a slapjack to Stevie Ray, and Stevie slapjacks Chaos, hits the lifting pedigree for the win. It sucked.
Bagwell, who was a babyface last week, is a heel again. I don't think they told us why. Maybe in the Bible of information they gave out at the beginning, it was in there somewhere.
Well, he's mad at his mother.
They got... Well, maybe it's in this some point. This thing that happened with Rick and Scott and Buff and the tag titles... A ridiculous, convoluted pile of bullshit.
So what happened was, it was Rick and Buff against Steiner and... I don't even remember who.
Let's go back. It was supposed to be Rick and Scott one-on-one.
Yes.
The Giant comes out and says, hey, we, the NWO Black and White, have the tag belts. Why don't we do me and Scott versus Rick and Buff?
All right.
Now
Buff walked out on Rick, and Rick got the win.
Rick still won.
So Rick won the tag titles by himself.
Right.
But has no partner.
Right.
Because I guess Bagwell walked out.
Which, shouldn't Buff still be half of the tag team champions?
Well, you'd think. But I guess because he walked away from a title match, he disqualified himself. I don't fucking know.
Now, on top of all this, if the NWO gets to decide who's defending these titles and when do they defend the titles, why did they volunteer to put the titles on the line?
Fuck if I know, dude. And they still
tag
did.
Division in 1998 in WCW is the worst of all time.
They still did Rick and Scott after that match.
Yes.
Which Rick also won.
So, Stevie Ray and Buff. Well, Buff's dropping legs on Chaos. Stevie drops the worst leg I've ever seen. Rick Steiner runs out and chases them away. Then Rick cuts a promo saying, look, I won the World Tag Titles. I need a partner to fight the NWO. Somebody took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity back in the day. Kenny Chaos, I want to give a chance to you. I want you to be my partner tonight.
Kenny Chaos.
Yeah.
Is Rage hurt? Is that
Yes. Actually, Chaos explained.
Yeah.
Rage is on the shelf with a bad shoulder. Now, what Rick said tonight was, I need someone to help me fight the NWO tonight. So I thought at the time it would just be a one-time thing. But regardless, Chaos says he's idolized Rick for a decade. It would be an honor to defend the belts with him tonight.
Well, I mean, is it a one-time thing?
Well,
they're champions.
Later, Chaos came out wearing the belt.
Yeah, for tonight.
Maybe.
But maybe Rick just chooses a new partner every week.
That would be an awesome gimmick.
Yeah. Well,
actually,
let's just see where this goes.
To find out who was the tag team champion this week. Regardless, at the time, I was fine with this. The match sucked. The post-match thing was fine. Kanyon versus Prince Iaukea.
Oh, God, dude.
Moves.
It's not even the moves. This is... Kanyon won with Flatliner, okay? That's all you need to know.
Okay.
This is not necessarily a Kanyon thing, but it's happening all the time in WCW. It happens a lot today. And that is people finding it more important to try to have a good match than have a match that makes sense in context. Why in the fuck was Kanyon selling this much for Prince Iaukea? They're just doing a bunch of moves. Canyon's selling and taking all these giant bumps for fucking Prince Iaukea. And then he wins. It was preposterous. Thumbs down.
I did like, here was where they broke the news about the Hogan Warrior finish being too disgusting for network TV. And they kept repeating the claim. And the more they repeated it, the funnier it got. Mm-hmm. The Four Horsemen came out for a promo. And they said Mongo was missing. He had been partying too hard in Vegas the night before. But Flair promised he would be there by the end of the show, which turned out to be a lie. They run their mouths a bit. Out comes Eric Bischoff. And he is playing Mr. Nice Guy. He admits he made a mistake. These fans wanted to see you wrestle Ric Flair more than I understood. To prove that I am a bigger man, I'm big enough to admit I was wrong. There's no doubt fans want to see you. I am putting you in a match tonight. Flair begins to call out everyone in the NWO. He says he's going to be ready in 10 minutes. Bischoff refused to name the opponent, but says, he said you will wrestle tonight. And Flair said he did not trust Bischoff, but he'd be out there later dressed to kill. Nitro Party clips. These guys had their own Nitro Girls, which puts them higher than most Nitro parties on the totem pole.
Or all.
Almost. Well, others have had Nitro Girls before. Pics of Scott Hall versus Kevin Nash from Havoc, where the finish was Nash hitting 2 powerbombs and then walking out to lose by countout.
Yeah.
He didn't pin.
Welcome to this week's Geek of the Week back then in 1998. What a fucking geek he looked like on this show.
All that build up to that match, and then Kevin Nash doesn't want to win.
And the payoff later on this show.
Alex Wright versus Barry Horowitz.
I thought it was Ty Dillinger.
I wrote the same thing. I spent this whole match trying to figure out, okay, Ty Dillinger is obviously Barry Horowitz. Who is the modern equivalent of Alex Wright? And honestly, I couldn't think of a good one.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. If any of you have a suggestion, I'm open to it. They did the funniest jump off the top rope and hit your face on the guy's boot spot of all time.
Oh, that's horrible.
Alex does that in like every match.
I think he just jumped extra high this time, so it looked sillier.
Remember Barry Horowitz in WWE, just a glorified job guy?
Mm-hmm. He wasn't even glorified.
He was
awesome. A job guy forever, and then finally he got like a big win.
He beat Chris Candido.
Yeah, they played it off like it was this giant thing.
And they just kept beating him again.
And then he literally was Ty Dillinger.
Yeah.
It's like they gave him a tiny bit of credibility, and they just went out there and jobbed a guy.
He got an entrance after that, and that was it.
He was really good.
Barry was awesome. So, he went up top after this boot to the face spot, but Alex kicked him down, hit a neck breaker for the win. They showed Hulk Hogan attacking Horace last week. Then it was time for pics of the Hogan Warrior match. Giant interfered. Horace interfered. I didn't show this part, but Hogan eventually won. Sick Boy and Wrath.
Oh, God.
Do any of you have any idea what they were doing in the first 15 or 20 seconds?
Well, no, I don't.
I just kept rewinding, asking, what are you guys doing?
But what I got out of this match was Wrath has been coming out every week and squashing dudes, and then they bring him out here, and they have a competitive match with Sick Boy. Sick Boy actually got offense on Wrath. And you want to know what happened when this occurred? The crowd died, and they stopped caring about Wrath. And finally, he had his meltdown. They cheered for that, and that was the end of the story. Why did they give Sick Boy anything in this fucking match? What the fuck's going on with this company?
There's a young man that was not well, was winning on Wrath for a minute.
That's true. Yeah, this sucked. This absolutely sucked. DDP versus Goldberg from Halloween Havoc.
I
haven't watched this match since 1998.
Yeah.
By the way, I posted this on Twitter. When DDP was walking out, they had, the cemetery at the entrance of the ramp, and one of the big screen read Diamond Dallas Page, and I don't know why, but the tombstone right below where it said Diamond Dallas Page, the name on the tombstone was Wash. So it said Diamond Dallas Page, Wash.
Okay.
I think they were trying to send Diamond a message here.
Oh, I see. He's dirty.
He's an unclean man.
Yeah.
I liked Michael Buffer being sure during intros to say it's not the main event, it's the final match. I'm sure there was somebody's contract that insisted that be done that way.
Yeah, I wonder who that might have been.
So Page and Goldberg wrestled. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was very good, but at the time, I remember people were thinking it was just a classic match, and they were playing it up like a classic match.
I believe earlier in the show, Mike Tenay called it the greatest match he'd ever seen.
Well, it wasn't.
No.
The first couple minutes, Goldberg was so out of control.
You know what's weird, too, is I watched it when it was over, I thought, that was a really good championship match, but, maybe it's just, we see so many great matches today, and, I don't know, felt like a 3.25 star match, watching it with modern eyes. Go back to the Observer, Dave gave it 3.25 stars.
Oh, there you go.
So apparently, everybody else thought it was awesome.
It was good.
It was the best match of Goldberg's career up to that point.
Sure.
Probably ever.
It may have been his best match until he ran into Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Which was his new greatest match of all time.
That's true.
But yeah, it was good.
The best thing about this was it went maybe 10 minutes. Not far off that. And Goldberg beat his ass for the vast majority of it. Page cut him off a bit. Then Goldberg made his big comeback, but then he hit the spear, but he'd had a bad shoulder because he hit the post. So the drama now was only Goldberg could take Goldberg out because he hit Page too hard. So Page had a chance to recover off the spear.
It wasn't even so much his shoulder. He speared him so hard he drove his own head into the mat like a DDT.
Mm-hmm. That happened too.
Thought he knocked himself out.
And I will add, by the way, Goldberg selling his arm after hitting the shoulder post and Page working it over. Awesome. His arm's just hanging limp as he's reversing Irish whips and stuff. So there's the spear spot. Then Goldberg goes to the jackhammer, but he can't get him up because of the bad arm. And so Page turns the jackhammer into the diamond cutter. Everyone in Las Vegas jumps up to their feet. Page is down for a second, but he's down for a couple seconds, and then he goes to make the cover, but still Goldberg kicks out at 2. Not 2.9, 2, because he's Goldberg. And the best thing about this was everyone knew that was Page's one shot. He hit his one shot. It didn't work. They knew he wasn't winning. They didn't waste anyone's time. Because Page picked Goldberg up for a suplex, Goldberg turned into a jackhammer and pinned him. Done. It was a very good match.
It was a very good match. Mm-hmm. Played to everyone's strengths. Like Goldberg, there's some things that Goldberg is so green at, but there's other things he does really well. Like he was really good at selling.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Doesn't even make any sense, because he never sold. But when he had to, he was pretty good at it. Or he really killed himself throughout this match, which is also a real possibility.
So they go back to Nitro, and Tony Schiavone said this. I wrote this down too, and this I will share. It always comes back to the common denominator, because that's the thing that's going to drive ratings. The thing that's going to bring the fans back to the arena. It's not the shock value of things you see on TV anymore. It's great competition.
Man.
This poor guy.
If only he was right.
If only he was right, if only he knew what was to come.
Yeah, it got worse.
I think he was starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Calling this goddamn show every week.
That's actually possible.
Let me talk about this next segment.
Okay.
This shit show. Jesus Christ. Gene goes into Nash's locker room. He says, "Can I talk to you?" And Nash says, "Come on in." And Nash is slumped over a little bit and just kind of shuffling, meandering. He goes and sits down, and in the locker room is also Scott Hall. And Gene says, "What happened last night?" And Nash says, "I didn't pin Hall because it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about helping him out." And that's when Hall shows up. These two fuckers then just start mumbling at each other. Gene's right in the middle with one goddamn mic. And first, Nash starts mumbling. So Gene's like, well, I got what the fuck's he saying? So he puts a mic by Nash's mouth, but then Hall's talking. Mm-hmm. So then Hall's mumbling. And then Gene tries to get the mic over to that guy. No one can hear a goddamn thing that's going on.
Not to mention, Gene is very short, and these are two very tall men.
It was so horrible. And then they shake hands, and of course, Giant rushes in, and him and Hall beat up Nash and toss him through a wall. I was like, oh, so this is the only explanation, okay? They had one wall.
Yeah.
So they toss the guy through the wall, and they realize, dude, no one could hear what the fuck you were saying. Like, Gene, can you get the mic up to the guy's mouth? And Gene goes, well, I'll do it better next time. We can't do next time. We fucking broke the wall. Look, put it on television. That's what aired on TV. This was hideous. This was as bad as that one interview where Diamond Dallas Page was in the room and the light was waving back and forth because they were talking about Hall, but they weren't allowed to talk about Hall, so they wouldn't allow them to put footage in. God, this place is just collapsing.
I'm.
We had a guy call today and say, "Man, Raw last night, it's like watching WCW then." I'm like, no, it's not.
It's not.
Are you kidding me?
I'm skeptical on the construction of this wall. The studs are supposed to be 16 on center, and
they weren't 16 on center. I can tell you that much.
I know, because yeah, he's a big man, and there's no way. Yeah. Anyway, I'm guessing this was a prop. Call it a hunch.
Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
I just like the couch is against the wall, and there's the wall, and Nash goes through it. And as you know, Nash is a big guy, so Nash goes through the wall. And they poke a camera into this bin or whatever's in there.
Disappeared.
He's gone. He's like Harry Potter. He's vanished. Okay, we got that segment down. NWO Hollywood comes out for a promo. I'll cut to the chase. He bragged about beating Warrior. He inducted Horace into the gang, and that was that. Took him 15 minutes to do that. But that's
gave his nephew 17 stitches.
Yes.
Or 11 stitches.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Saturn versus Eddie Guerrero.
I love when they call the black and white the colors.
That's what he said.
It's fucking black and white.
The absence of color.
I guess one of them is all colors.
I guess.
Saturn came out, and apparently Rob Halford had a yard sale of some kind.
Yeah.
A black bandana, black tights, and a black chainmail vest. Not a good look.
Hey, I'll put the guy over. He was not a great wrestler, but he had some great things that he did.
Yeah.
Like cool suplexes.
Yeah, a bunch of cool suplexes.
You put him in there with Eddie Guerrero. They had a great match.
They had a 2017 Raw match, basically. Just all cool moves. Saturn did a bunch of cool suplexes. Eddie did a bunch of cool, like, head scissors and arm drags and kicks. And Saturn was about to win with a DVD when the LWO ran in for the DQ.
All of them, including some guy that nobody knew who he was.
Well, first,
what the hell was that guy's name?
First, it was just two guys. I forget which two. It doesn't matter. But between those two and Eddie, they cut Saturn off briefly, but then he made a comeback. And Saturn's comeback after the match was better than anything that actually happened in the match. And then like 6 more guys all ran in and beat him down, including a new person. Legit, at first, I thought it was Raging Bull.
Yeah.
I did too, actually.
And then I realized he was way too short.
But it wasn't.
No.
Apparently it was some childhood friend of Eddie's, but I can't remember. I cannot remember. I mean, it must not have been that big a deal, because I don't remember a thing about him.
No, they laid out Saturn. I believe this new guy hit a brain buster, and Eddie hit a frog splash for good measure. Me and Gene interviewed Judy Bagwell.
You know what? This was not that bad. I thought she did an all right job here. The fans hated it. But, I mean, it wasn't that bad.
She talked about Marcus degrading the Bagwell name.
True.
Said she was a mother on a mission.
True.
She was tired of being nice. She loved Marcus with all her heart, but she'd had enough of Buff.
Okay, so it was corny. But
you don't say.
I've seen a lot worse, so... we'll have plenty to rant about on this show.
That's all fair, but the fans did not like her. The fans have not liked her since her first appearance, and it was clearly time to just pull the plug on this, but that's not what they did because they're WCW.
No. There's lots to do with Judy still.
Giant and Stevie Ray versus Rick Steiner and Chaos.
Okay. So, there was so much awkwardness in this match.
Stevie worked twice on this show.
I thought...
Did he?
Yes.
He did.
He worked the opener.
Yeah.
I was writing about the awkwardness, and I was getting ready to just go nuts on Chaos and Stevie, because they're Chaos and Stevie.
Right.
But then I'm realizing that it's actually Rick Steiner and the Giant that just can't get anything right. They're fucking up left and right. And then at the finish, I have never seen anything like this before. The finish was the biggest clusterfuck I have ever seen that didn't get fucked up. Am I wrong?
No.
It was incredible. Giant and Chaos, I swear to God, Stevie Ray and Rick Steiner are doing a crisscross spot. And in the middle of it, Giant and Chaos did a spot in the middle of the crisscross, didn't get hit, and everything went off without a hitch. I was like, the crisscross is going on, and I'm like, what the fuck are Giant and Chaos doing? They're walking right in the middle of it. And Giant knocks the guy out of the ring, and the crisscross occurs, and nobody gets hit, and nobody falls down, and they pulled it off. And I was like, that was impossible. I don't know how they did it.
There was a point here where it looked like Stevie Ray and Giant whipped one of the guys into the ropes, like they were going to do like a double clothesline, and then Giant just changed his mind and walked away. I think I mentioned this last week, but Giant's on his way out of the company, and he has senioritis, if you want to call it that.
He's so fat.
Yeah, he's let himself go.
He does not care.
He gives zero fucks about anything. He comes out with Stevie, and the camera's in his face, and he turns to Stevie and says, I'm going to walk like Lex Luger. And he flares his lats, and he sticks his ass out, and he walks in as wooden a manner as possible, and Stevie Ray loses it. They're doing this match. I don't know who decided that Giant need to be running corner to corner, but I suspect it was not Giant. It looked horrible. He's so gone. He is so checked out. He's punching in, he's punching out, and he can't wait for this all to be over. So, yeah, Giant left, and Rick pinned Stevie with the Bulldog. Eric Bischoff joins the announcers. He's totally over the top, trying to show what a genuine good guy he is who regrets his actions.
You know, when he first came out, I just started fast-forwarding, because I was like, fuck, it's just Eric on commentary. Next thing I know, it's footage from Flair and Hogan in 1994.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's an odd clip to show? And I'm watching, and they play the fucking last, 10 minutes of the match.
Forever.
And I'm like, now I gotta rewind and find out what the hell's going on. I go all the way back. Finally makes sense in storyline. But I was so completely lost for a while there. I was like, did I push a button and, end up on a different show? What the fuck's going on right here?
So, yes, Flair did not wrestle on the show. They showed footage of Hulk Hogan beating his ass for 10 minutes. Hogan wins the match, and then Bischoff gloats for a while. And actually, the announcers, both before and after the clips, were fantastic. Because Bischoff's being evil, Tony's being the voice of reason, and Heenan's just being the goof.
He's kissing up to Eric.
I didn't think Flair was good at all, Mr. Bischoff.
I think it was... Eric goes, man, Flair didn't look good. And Heenan just goes, I thought so. And Eric goes to leave, and Tony is so appalled. He goes, you're spineless. You're absolutely spineless.
And Heenan says, you got to butter up to the boss.
Yeah, that was great.
Before they show the clip, Bischoff's explaining, we're going to show footage of Ric Flair, and Tony says, you said there'd be a match. Bischoff says, no, we can't have a match. Flair couldn't pass the physical. Heenan, at the other end of the desk, says, what's wrong with him? And Tony does the slow burn to look at Bobby. There's nothing wrong with him. It was so awesome. Shivani and Heenan didn't always have great chemistry, but they did here. Juventud Guerrera and Kidman. Here is where it occurred to me just how long this show is. Mm-hmm. It's not their fault. They actually had a good match for the time they had, but...
Yeah, they had a good match. In fact, it was so good that when Kidman first came out, nobody cared because he is still not recovered from being killed by Scott Hall.
Yes.
But they had a good enough match. It was so much better than last week's Kidman match. And by the end, the people were totally into it. And Kidman won, Shooting Star Press. Everybody got on their feet. Everybody cheered and clapped. I nearly cried. It was a glimpse of WCW superiority in the middle of this depressing, slow death. Sad.
I watched this match and shed a tear because 205. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Anyway, yes, this was a very good match for the 3 or 4 minutes they had. Very good shit. Scott Steiner came out for a promo. First, he said he and Buff were friends for life and they hugged. So Buff was funny for like a minute. He says women should talk about his mom. Women are good for cooking and cleaning. Dad, if you're listening, set mom straight.
He had a message for all of the mothers out there. I was like, I'm sure there's tons of them in this audience.
Mm-hmm. Scott Steiner said something about, ladies, I hope you don't love me for my body, but my mind. My wife just happened to be in the room. She said, can I love him for either?
I see.
Yeah.
Huh.
Say that again.
I didn't picture him being her type.
No.
He's more a Shawn Michaels type.
All right.
How about a Craig type?
Let's be fair, Craig.
What are you talking about?
So where were we here?
I have no idea. So Scott starts talking. He calls out J.J. Dillon.
Oh, my God.
This went off the rails quickly.
Dude, I was trying to translate for Steiner. I just couldn't. I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. He couldn't do anything right. He was like you earlier in the show when you tried that tongue twister.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
So the gist of it was he wanted...
Please, what was the gist?
As far as I can tell.
Help me here.
He wanted JJ to name his favorite Steiner, and JJ wouldn't do it. I don't know why. Because Steiner was outright saying, I turned my back on the company. You sent out other refs to help.
Well, JJ knew that if he said, my favorite Steiner is your brother, he was going to get his ass kicked.
But he's going to get his ass kicked either way.
He didn't know that.
So why did he come down?
Well,
regardless, he got his ass kicked.
Sure did.
And,
you know what's so funny about him getting his ass kicked? Scott kicks him, and of course, all the geeks are running down. Scott's trying so hard to put this guy in the recliner, and it's just not working. And then Bobby Heenan is so appalled, and he goes, he's wearing glasses.
Yes.
And I suddenly remembered when I was a little kid,
Yes.
and the thing was, you never hit a guy with glasses.
Oh, you get glass in their eye. That'd be bad.
Like, man, I haven't heard that in like 20 years. 19 years is the last time I think I heard that.
Unless the kid does have a glass eye.
Can't hit a guy with glasses.
Anyway.
So my favorite part of this was he's attacking the commissioner, this big scary monster. And it's so concerning that they put up the logo that says we're about to go to break before security has even hit the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping he'd still be in the hold to win the break, but no.
I don't think he ever got in the hold.
Well, that's also possible.
These two did not fit together like Legos.
They did not have chemistry.
No.
They were not on the same page. The arena went dark. Warriors music started. And I thought, okay, this is going to be an NWO skit. It's going to be Renegade or Vincent or something. No, Warrior came out.
Yeah, I thought he was gone.
I thought after Havoc he disappeared and they put him in the Hall of Fame.
This may have been his final appearance. I don't remember. But I have to say this because I'm a fair man, okay? This was his hometown.
Yes.
So he got a big pop. There were some boos when he started his promo. But he cut a good promo. He was very angry about the last night. He kept it quick. He said Hogan could have done the right thing, but he failed. He's going to be haunted forever. There's a difference between beating a man and beating a man up, and he beat Hogan up last night, and that bullshit pinfall didn't change anything. He said the time is near, same warrior time, same warrior place, same warrior channel. He just got in, did his promo, and was done.
That's true.
And he had fire, and he was angry about losing.
Yeah.
Hogan comes down to the ring, sends in Horace. Warrior beats Horse's ass. Giant hits the ring. Warrior low bridges him, sends him outside. Hogan hits the ring. Warrior lays him out. Punches Bischoff. Bischoff takes a bump off the apron. The place is going nuts. And that's it.
Got his heat back.
Even this fucking company of shitheads knew you put the guy over in his hometown.
Yep.
This was great.
Yep.
That had to be the highlight moment of Warrior's entire WCW run.
Absolutely.
Probably, actually, yes. I was going to say the moment he first appeared, but then that was followed by his promo. So, no. Yeah, they did everything right here. Scott Hall and Scott Steiner versus Lex Luger and Conan. First of all, when they came out, I felt like I'd already seen Scott Hall and Scott Steiner wrestle about 4 times each. So they come out, and it's time for a brawl. They brawl here, they brawl there. 2 guys brawl up the aisle with the other guys doing moves in the ring. Then they just switch places. Chairs get involved. Lex goes for a torture rack. It gets broken up. There's no ref. There's no match. I don't know what's happening. Then they go to commercial, and when they come back, everyone's gone. What? What happened?
The best part of this is they're in the middle of a brawl, and they just go to commercial.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, when they come back, they'll tell us what happened. They come back, and literally Tony Schiavone mutters, "What a brawl." And then they go to the ring announcement for the main event.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did we switch channels?
Is it that hard
Did we jump the time stream?
to
Are we on the
just
wrong
let
show?
us know what happened? My God.
They don't want to run long like they did the night before. So
the main event is DDP versus Bret Hart. Remember earlier when I said the Giant don't give a fuck no more? Bret's on the same page. Like the most boring Bret Hart match of all time. He did nothing.
Yeah, but you know what? I believe this was the first Nitro that ended with a good match and a title change since July.
Probably.
it's a pretty good match.
It's almost November.
You thought so?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you imagine like a great Bret Hart match, it wasn't that.
Maybe perhaps my standards are just
But if you imagine like a Nitro match, it's pretty damn good.
He did do, I must correct myself, and I corrected myself at the time. He did at least do a top rope superplex. So I can't say he did nothing.
That totally popped the crowd, too.
It did. So, let's see. Bret throws a mule kick.
This was actually great. They're in the corner, and DDP's banging his head into the buckle, and Bret does the old mule kick, but his leg's so goddamn long that he hits Paige and the referee in the balls. Both of them.
1 leg, 4 balls.
Yeah. And down they go. It was like a good bowling strike.
It was. So,
It was a split and a strike.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
Bret pulls out a weapon, then he revives the ref, and he swings the weapon, but Paige ducks, hits a diamond cutter, and the ref counts 3.
For the title.
It has not been a year since Survivor Series, and Bret's just doing clean jobs for secondary titles on Nitro.
Yeah, but it was good.
For what they did, it was good. It blows me away.
It was really hard for Bret to get any kind of heat in the match because the first 4 rows on the hard camera, these fans absolutely loved them some heels.
Sure.
Every time he'd start yelling at them, they would just stand and applaud.
Yeah. So Bret goes crazy afterwards. He's attacking Paige's leg with a chair, puts him in the sharpshooter. Paige is screaming and screaming, and nobody comes to break it up, so Bret gets bored. And he lets it go, and he grabs the chair some more. And finally, Goldberg runs out, and the show ends just as he hit the ring. And I wrote them down.
There's been something really weird with my Apple TV because I knew Goldberg ran down, but it just ended before he ran down.
That's how it ended.
He got like 1 foot in the ring when it went out.
I see.
Yeah. So I wrote them down, so I will list them here. Although, frankly, the record of finishes in the show, by and large, was pretty good for a Monday Night War show. We had pin after interference in a weapon, pin in a squash, clean pin in a pay-per-view main event, DQ due to run-in, clean pin, whatever the fuck that tag match was.
I believe that would have been a no contest.
I wrote WTF schmaz.
Yeah.
And then a clean pin. That's pretty good. So the finishes in the show were very good.
Can you imagine? They're beating Raw in good finishes. But if you watch the show, it seems like everything's horrible.
Somebody told me on Twitter this is the last time Nitro actually beat Raw in the ratings.
I believe that's true. And they had to lose $1.5 million to do it.
That's right.